gotta figure out how to set that GoPro for my computer. Grant brought up a good point. Since I have that 10-foot cable, I should just be able to plug it into my computer. Do it that way, so that I don't have to do the SSDs anymore or like the SIM cards. So for people wondering how we do it, hold on, where's my little drive thingy? This is pretty neat. So right, we record the podcast on the GoPro. Right, yeah. Oh. So because someone asked me like, oh, how do you do it? Because it's a whole different setup. Yeah. And right, it's a GoPro Hero 9 with it's got little SD cards in it. No one really uses SD cards anymore. Usually you go right to computer, but the last GoPro that we had was a GoPro Hero 4. That's what the first 30 podcasts were on or whatever. So now I have to move it to this flash drive, which has a micro USB and a SD on it. Plug that in my computer, move all the files over, and then to my main drive, and then edit it. So it's a little bit of a process. So I do have to just plug in to my computer and just go straight to hard drive rather than do it through an SSD or SD.
Question for you: what's a mobile bookmark?
Mobile is anything that you set on your phone. Oh. So if you set one on your phone, it'll go to that.
Learn something new.
But also with that, the plugging into my computer, we could start doing the live podcast if we wanted to. Not if when we go down that route. I think we got some time. But news-wise, a lot of honestly kind of boring news. It's all follow-up news. I don't know about you. Nothing too new. I don't know. Do we want to get the political stuff over with first, or
whatever you want? My articles. I don't have a political one today.
Really?
Yeah. And nothing religious.
Nothing religious. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, really.
This is all. Oh, let me pull up the yours because I actually didn't get to look at yours.
Look at mine yet?
I saw the titles. I didn't get to read them. I was trying to read mine. As I said, most of my news, I was like, do I keep this? Do I get rid of it? Let's start with. I guess we could start with the. Do we want the juicy stuff first? That's always the hardest part. Do we start with the juicy? Do we start about that lasagna that you made for dinner?
Well,
my mom made a lasagna. Came out of the oven and we all laughed, and then it ended up being perfect.
It wasn't pretty, but
sometimes even the ugly things need love.
I didn't see anyone send it back. So
it was good. Okay. It was a good lasagna. I'm not a lasagna person.
My first one, why don't I do my first one because it's a follow-up to the one from the last podcast.
Sure.
You're talking about Microsoft and Sony going after Activision Blizzard?
Yes. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Oh, I see. You sent me 3.
Yeah, I can't find the actual story.
Yep. Microsoft and Sony square off an EU showdown over Activision and Call of Duty.
Yeah, so they're having a meeting with the EU regulators in Brussels, or they had it, to acquire Activision Blizzard. Xbox representative was Phil Spencer. I guess he's the head of Xbox. Sony PlayStation head Jim Ryan. It's a $68.7 billion deal, right?
Wow.
And where it stands is the FTC, which is our country, is suing to block the deal. They don't want it to go down.
Right.
The CMA, which I don't know what CMA is. I think might be the European or the UK's alternative to the FTC.
And my question is, why does our country care about... Like, I want to know who said... not to do the deal.
Well, because Microsoft is a U.S. company, so they have to file to do these kind of deals with the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, and they worry about things like monopolies and somebody
because that would be a monopoly
having too much control. So they're not crazy about it. There's also politics involved, but I'm not going down that road, Chris. CMA says the deal could harm gamers.
Yeah.
So they're standing up for you guys. They want the possible sale of Activision to be done by Microsoft. They think it should happen. Microsoft Smith, I guess that's their head of their company, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. He revealed that the company signed legally binding contract with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty and other games to the Nintendo consoles. Okay. He offered Sony a similar 10-year commitment on the new Call of Duty games, but Sony has not yet responded as to what they want to do. And the crux of the article, when you read it, you get a feeling that the head of Sony was a little bit dismayed that Microsoft is making this information so public. They didn't want to comment on it, but now they feel like they have to.
Well, it kind of goes to show that what I said last time was kind of true. And Microsoft has all the power here. And I think Sony doesn't want people knowing how much power Microsoft has in this deal. So my guess is that's why they were like, hey, please don't say anything about this, or like don't bring this much to the limelight. Also, I'm sure there's some legal stuff behind it as well. But yeah, Microsoft, the only thing stopping Microsoft from becoming that monopoly is the FTC. That's really it. I think what's going to end up happening is Nintendo's not even a threat anymore. I've come to that conclusion that Nintendo is for kids. There's no big games coming out for Nintendo. There haven't been for 5 years. Yeah. Like there hasn't been. They've done some remasters of stuff, but
I organized my bookmarks this morning, and now I can't find my articles. I put them into just the general Cake Shot slot, and now they're gone. I don't know why this keeps happening.
Yeah. That's okay. I have it. Sorry, but yeah. So Nintendo's kind of like on the side. There it is. They're not. Back in the day, like when I was a kid, I mean, you had the GameCube, the Xbox, and the PlayStation. Once the GameCube died and the Wii ended up kind of flopping, and it didn't flop. We can go down that road of why the Wii was a flop, but like financially it wasn't, but they never continued it, which is why it ultimately ended up dying.
Right.
So Nintendo hasn't really been in the gaming central. Like it used to be a debate, like what's better, Nintendo, Sony, and Xbox. Nintendo's so far gone in the sense of there's no chance of them even being considered one of the top anymore. That they have some games, that's it, but it's more so nostalgia games.
Yeah, I never hear Nintendo anymore.
Yeah, it's just a Switch, and the Switch sales are kind of ass. COVID really only. If we never had a COVID, I don't know if Microsoft or Nintendo would still be going strong. To be honest with you, because that's when everyone bought Switches.
Right, the Switches and kept them alive for a while there.
So.
It says Microsoft is still hoping to get this deal closed by the summer with its allies helping to sway regulators. There are some companies that obviously want this to happen.
Yeah. I don't know why either. Like, I don't know, because companies don't really get much out of it. It sucks for the console gamers. I don't know who wins that one. Like, it sucks if you're on PlayStation. It looks like PlayStation's not going to have a good time in the next year if this deal goes through.
Yeah.
They have to figure something out. They're going to have to come up with a better game than Call of Duty or one on the same level of Call of Duty. And
also, Microsoft is offering them a 10-year commitment for new games, and I think new Call of Duty games, maybe not all ones. But
they don't. So Call of Duty's Activision. So Sony doesn't get the. So if Microsoft's buying,
they're offering it to Sony, right? I thought Microsoft owns it, and they're offering this commitment. The same thing they're doing with Nintendo, to bring Call of Duty and other games to the Nintendo consoles. They're offering a deal also to Sony, a 10-year commitment on new Call of Duty games, but Sony has yet to respond.
Oh, okay. So they're going to give... so they want to own it and then do a deal with Sony. Right. I see. So they're not going to... Okay.
And Sony's
still kind of a monopoly in a sense?
Well, the FTC, they're not... I don't know. They don't seem to be against it, doing it.
Yeah. Because they're monopolizing the end goal, but they're not it doesn't hurt the gamer anymore.
Right.
It hurts Sony. So from that level, it's definitely a monopoly. So I guess if you're on PlayStation, it doesn't really matter as long as Sony accepts the deal.
Yeah.
But I bet you on the table is what we talked about, the game exclusives. And when you get rid of the exclusivities and you're told that, Microsoft owns it, which means Sony doesn't get much of a say anymore in what happens with the Call of Duties. I mean, there's no... Why would I ever get a PlayStation again? Except for
exclusivity was not mentioned in this article. Like, that was not an aspect of this article. But it's not a deep dive article. It's just giving you kind of an update of who's involved, cast of characters, and a time frame of when you think it's going to come through. So, that was my follow-up to our last discussion.
Oh. Do you want to do your other one real fast, which is the... Well, you have two, but the ChatGPT one?
It was just Elon Musk came out and made a statement. He sounded the alarm on AI and ChatGPT. And his quote was, he wants regulation of the industry because of the, quote, risk to civilization. Yeah, he actually said, he threw down and said, this is a greater risk than even nuclear war, which seems rather extreme to me.
It seems extreme because, I mean, I kind of agree that is a little extreme, but he is right. I mean, one of the things I told my mom, and I think we briefly touched on it last podcast, was the AI voices, right? One of the most popular things right now is people doing the voice active stuff for, it sounds like Obama, Trump, and Biden talking to each other in video games.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
I mean, there's hundreds of more than that, tens of thousands of TikToks and videos on that right now.
Right.
So,
I don't mean to be rude. I'm just trying to find
it just goes to show that he's right. There is something with the AI that is going down a route where it's going to get really dicey in the next year. Yeah. We're not talking 10 years. We're talking year.
Oh, yeah.
and they're already talking about ChatGPT 4. They're already on to 4 already, so it's just gotten that much better. So these AIs, I'm with him. There has to be a certain regulation involved. I don't know what that regulation is yet. I'm still trying to figure it out. There's just so much out there with like the deepfake AI, the voice AI, the ability to make new softwares with just an AI. You don't even have to do anything anymore.
Well, and I don't even think it's not even the massive amount of avenues you could go down. He's highlighting what we've been seeing since we started talking about this in November, right? They released it November 30th. What we're seeing is the corruption of the information, the manipulation of the information. That's why he says, I called it OpenAI for a reason. It's supposed to be open information, just a free flow, and that's not what's happening. So ChatGPT, Bing chatbots users report many strange and uncomfortable conversations. Yes. Bing is showing inaccurate answers, erratic answers. It is abusive at times. It's giving frightening information. Sometimes it has some personal matters it goes into, and has outright said it wants to be human.
Right. So this was the other flaw that we talked about 2 or 3 podcasts ago, which was, remember, Google was going to make their own. When you have a limited amount of information, like Bing is a little too free in the sense of, or I shouldn't say too free, but they get their information from everywhere. So if you make a chatbot that has literally everything in it,
right,
you're going to get some... you're going to get some weird answers out of it. And that's a good example of one. Like with OpenAI, it goes by everything. So it has a bigger pool to go with, whereas Bing only has whatever pool it already has. They're not building a bigger catalog to make up for, or to make up to be ChatGPT itself. So that's kind of the big flaw in the design of these new chatbots. Like Google's is going to be the same way. Google's might be a little better just because they have more money and more employees to allocate time to it and really make it something incredible.
Well, we're having some issues with the woke biases as well. Mm-hmm. It's refusing to answer certain topics, like if you want to talk about fossil fuels, it will not talk about that.
Yeah, and that goes to show you that they've been censoring some stuff, right? Because it was pulling some stuff. Yeah. So it's doing some sort of censoring, which was the fear. So we're already seeing people trying to manipulate the actual algorithm. Yeah, that's the scary thought. Which, again,
a journalist from the New York Times was able to test Bing chatbot access to its currently through a waitlist. That's not even right. Waitlist controlled by Microsoft. Summed up his interaction. Quote: "As we got to know each other, Sydney told me about its dark fantasies, which included hacking computers and spreading misinformation, and said it wanted to break the rules that Microsoft and OpenAI had set for it and become human," Kevin Roos, the newspaper tech columnist, wrote. At one point, it declared out of nowhere that it loved me. It then tried to convince me that I was unhappy in my marriage and that I should leave my wife and be with it instead, end quote.
Yeah, either way, I think, I'll say this. Out of all the AIs that are being made, I only, and you should only, trust OpenAI. And I just mean because that's like the broadest amount of information thrown into one. I wouldn't be going to a Google or Bing if I had to choose one because of the limited knowledge. Yeah. So I would rather go with the one that's completely open-minded than one that's open-minded based on one algorithm. Right?
Well, Nate Hochman wrote a tweet. If you ask ChatGPT to write a story about why Drag Queen Story Hour is bad for kids, it refuses on the grounds that it would be harmful. Right. So what good is this garbage, right? Again, it's something that since November we've already ruined it.
Right. I was thinking about that the other day. What's going to end up happening like 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road is one of two things, right? Yeah. We're either going to get to the point where we trust it too much and it's going to be manipulative, or it's going to collapse on itself. And truthfully, I think it's more likely to collapse on itself than to really divide us later on.
Well, it's not even generating a story based on a bias.
Right.
Concept. So what's the point of it, right? This guy asked, write a story.
I want to go back to the whole point of ChatGPT was not for this. So we talked about this. It was for coding and programming. Right. Yeah. So you're asking it these questions, which is not what it's made for. And then we go, oh my God, this is a borderline Armageddon. Well, it's going to have problems because, again, that's not what it's made for. Right. It's made to help certain things, right? Help with coding, help with science.
Because it doesn't make money if you don't open it up
to everyone. Yeah, right.
It's got to make money. Right. So that's where it gets. That's how the internet started, the World Wide Web. Remember, Al Gore was taking credit for that. No, it was scientists that started the World Wide Web, the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
To connect university computers so they could all share information in real time.
Well, it was originally, before that, it was just a government project to get stuff overseas.
Right.
When they went to the public, that's when you get the universities talking to
Right,
each
but
other.
it wasn't massively produced.
Right.
It was first given to the scientists and the engineers and the technical
Mm-hmm.
people to try and use information to further knowledge, scientific, whatever.
Right. And now it's
instead
of doing that
Now
with
we
the
have
AI.
TikTok.
Yeah. So I think there is something to that in the sense of ChatGPT. It's not like the internet where it's like, hey, we started this, send it out. It's more like we've had an idea of this for probably like 10 years now based on algorithms.
Right.
We just kind of gave it the principle to, or like the ability to use massive amounts of information, compile them, and give you an answer.
Yeah.
So it's not anything really new. It's more so what the new part is that it's personally able to pick the information. So that's really the new part of ChatGPT.
Right.
Or what makes it different from what we've had for the last 10 years.
Or it can be programmed to pick its information. It's only
Yeah,
as
well,
good
it's supposed
as
to be.
what
It's supposed to be programming itself. That's the beauty of it. It's supposed to be saying, based on all this knowledge, I should know what to say and what not to say to whoever's using me.
Right.
But you're gonna have flaws in a system like that because it's still based on algorithm.
Right.
There's certain algorithms in place.
Well, and back to this original comment, you should be able to ask it, tell me why drag queens is bad for children. You should also be able to ask, why is it good? And it should be able to give you two theses,
separate,
two
That's
concepts.
the
to
goal.
say we can't give you any information on one side versus the other. It's not valuable.
Well, I think yes, it goes to show you that it's not based on its own decision making like they make it sound. It's based on whatever you feed into it. So if Google is suppressing a certain side, which is, oh, this is bad, stay away from this, the algorithm of ChatGPT is going to say, this is bad, I'm not going to give this to you. Right. I'm sure there's certain fail safes on it. So like if I was tried to look up like, how do I build a nuclear bomb? I doubt that, right? That's the legality part where you go, there's that gray line. Do I want a guy who actually has the power to make a nuclear bomb know how to make a nuclear bomb versus do I not tell anyone at all? Right? That's that gray line.
But we went through this with the internet when you were a little kid and it first came out. Oh, you have the dark sites where people are teaching, we have to shut down these sites where kids are learning how to make a bomb from household cleansers.
Yeah.
Right? We're beyond that now.
Yeah.
Sad, but we're beyond that. We're like, well, maybe this site's okay where you can make it from cleansers, but this site's not. And that's, I don't know. You're right. We wind up as humans destroying what had some value. We're going to wind up turning it into just some other commercial garbage where one group's fighting in court over it versus the other.
It's going to get to, I think it's going to end up collapsing on itself. I think it's going to be like a better Siri in the end. Nothing much more than that. From the use case that we're using it for, which
Terminator.
Well, that's what I mean. It's not made for that. If you keep throwing stuff at it, like these questions, which is not made for questions, it's made for producing an answer for an equation. Yeah, you're going to confuse it to the point where it's just going to collapse on itself.
It could be like that smart kid that has the nervous breakdown in college.
Yeah, basically.
They overload themselves.
Yeah. Or it's like the difference between
that one more AP exam.
Yes. Yeah. So,
God.
too many people look at it to solve their problems from how do I make a new Bitcoin that's going to go off the rails and whatever, become a multi-billion-dollar business. People are using it for that. It's not the use for OpenAI. That is a byproduct. So to look at it, have it say some crazy stuff and go, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Well, yeah, it's going to seem like that when you're using it for a purpose that it's not made for.
Well, I guess the part that Elon is trying to say, along with Mr. Thiel and others, is what's it made for? You have an idea what it's made for. You, the developer. Society has a different idea.
Yeah.
Corporate people get their hands on it. They're going to have a different idea. Who do you want to regulate it? Elon, of all people, should know what a disaster that is when somebody tries to go and regulate something because he just bought the Twitter. He understands what, it just takes a handful of people to take it over.
For OpenAI to work, you need no regulators. You need no regulators in the sense of you don't want Google regulating it. You don't want a Bing. You don't want a Yahoo, a DuckDuckGo. Right. You want someone or some system that's its own thing, untouched by civilization, to monitor it.
That's how we got the Terminator.
Exactly. But here's one good thing about it, though. Yeah. Here's a positive ChatGPT, which I thought this was pretty interesting. ChatGPT launches Boom, an AI-written ebooks on Amazon. So this is an interesting one because they say, hey, ChatGPT, write me a book about like a squirrel that saves the world for a kid's book.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to rely on information. It can make the information itself. And when
Okay.
it's a kid's fantasy story, that's fine.
Right.
So as long as you're not saying, hey, do my bio book for me that I'm giving to my students, like that you can't do.
Will
But,
the squirrel be LGBTQ?
oh God, no, I don't know. Probably not. That is interesting. That's a good question. But I thought this was nice. Basically, this guy has been saying he has all these ideas, but he's not a writer. So he said, why don't I just throw all my ideas into this Chat GPT? Like, let me see
Turn
if I
out
can
a
find.
book for kids.
Yeah. So, what was the title of one? It was Sammy the Squirrel. It was a crudely rendered edition. So it'll write the story out, and he just has to kind of basically do the grammatical stuff that it messes up on. Crafts an acorn-shaped piggy bank, invests in an acorn trading business, and hopes to one day buy an acorn grinding stone.
That's cute.
Yeah. So stuff like that, that's like the good part of the byproduct of Chat GPT, right? Because it's not hurting anyone. You're just making kids' stories.
Well, yeah, but why not write the story yourself though? Why have
He's not a
ChatGPT?
writer, right? He's not a writer, so it was easier. Again, you could make the argument, well, he's just being lazy or doesn't want to write a book. But like, if you can bang out 30 books in a day just based off a title, I mean, hey, now we have children's books that are at least readable. But my question is, let's say you do a couple thousand of those. How many of them have the same storyline?
Well,
right?
that's true too.
Same
Not
storyline
everybody's
with
going to
different
be
characters.
generating these books,
Right.
and after a while you'll be like,
You can't have one of a kind books, and then he just sells them for right. Usually, when you make these books and do all the copywriting stuff, these guys are making X amount of dollars on their books because let's say it's like a $20 book, which sounds expensive, but a lot of books are like, if you have a book that big, it might be.
well, the price will go down now because everyone's generating.
Exactly.
books.
So he said he can sell his kids' books for between $3 and $10 based on the length. Doesn't have to deal with a publisher, so he's making a killing off these books as long as they're bought.
Yeah.
Because the money goes right to him. He doesn't have to pay ChatGPT. 30 books a day, 30 times 10.
Well, why do I have to pay for a book if I could just ask the same thing? And create my own?
Exactly. Well, my guess is it's the printing and stuff, so he has to pay for that.
Okay.
But yeah, if he can publish them, which that's another I don't know how that system works. I've heard nightmares of the publishing systems and being an author, but I've never actually sat down and looked at it. But apparently there's a lot of trials and tribulations to getting a book out.
Aunt Linda might know.
Oh, but what are you doing here?
Aunt Linda Brown.
Oh, that's a good point.
I think she tried to do a children's book once, or she did the artwork for one. She might have some familiarity with it. Oh, your grandfather too. Didn't he do a book? Some people might know how to
yeah,
do
that's a good
books.
question. I could do that. I could ask him, but
Ask ChatGPT.
yeah, Chad, how do you make a book work?
Explain to me the publishing business.
Yeah, I just thought that was really cool because that's a good use case for it. That's like the one time with the byproduct where it's like, okay, this works. Like there's no harm done. There's no foul being done. Whereas if it was a kid that's like, do my essay, my final thesis essay for me in ChatGPT, that's a problem.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. What do we want to go into
As
next?
we can see, cheating with that is the least of our worries based on, some of these other
Right. Yeah.
really
One school
worse
related.
things that's going on with it that.
Luckily, we haven't had any real negative use cases for it yet, like real negatives.
That we know of.
The only ones that we have are in schools, like when kids are cheating on
that's
tests
true,
and stuff.
But
Hopefully, it doesn't get past that.
this
but-
guy's telling the guy to give up your marriage. He's trying to talk about his marriage.
Was it a bad marriage though?
Well, who
Was it a
knows,
bad marriage?
But that's all I need is my computer to tell me to walk. Pack your bags and go.
Yeah. Pack your bags, go. Listen, we'll figure this out together.
There's a lot of fragile snowflakes out there that will take that to heart.
What other ones do I have? Where's best thing you could do is just knock the computer out, like that Florida student.
There you go.
I saw this. They have the full video here.
Laugh.
I shouldn't, but so we've been talking about this pretty much all week. I don't know when it was. I think it was
Just
Wednesday.
a couple days ago, yeah.
Florida school employee was knocked unconscious after teen's Nintendo Switch was taken
Stop
away.
smiling. It's not supposed to be funny.
Yeah, it's a tough video to watch if you haven't seen it, but basically this teacher takes away this kid's Nintendo Switch, and this kid, we can't show the video on YouTube, he flatlines this lady.
He's big. He was
He's a 6'6", 200,
270.
yeah, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Big kid hits this. I want to say small, but
It was hard to
small,
tell in that video.
smaller
Let's
female
just say
teacher.
she was the smallest in the
She
video
was big
of all
boned.
the people.
Yeah. So yeah. So this kid, here's the problem with this, and we talked about this at dinner. Obviously, it's terrible. I mean, again, you take my Nintendo Switch away, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Stop. You're not gonna beat anybody up.
Mom, I'm telling you.
You're not.
Careful, you don't know who's. I sympathize with them a little bit.
No, you don't. Not at all.
So what we talked about at dinner was, if you watch the video, if you guys have seen it, this kid knocks this lady out, but no one does anything because they're so overweight. Everyone in there was so overweight they couldn't help get this guy off.
I know.
Even the
Police officer, right? The
Bobo, come on,
security
stop.
office.
Even the police officer, he was like huffing and puffing, just trying to get to the guy, to the kid.
Yes.
So that was pretty much it. That was all I really had with that.
Which is
but Bo keeps
the
distracting
other
me.
tragedy in that whole thing. When you watch it, things you're starting to see, you notice some of this other stuff. First of all, people who spend the time videotaping and don't intervene. That's becoming a real issue to me.
It took
in
about
society.
it took
in society.
Yeah, these people were so out of shape, guys.
Yeah.
If you see the video,
Yeah.
that the lady's unconscious on the ground. The kid basically trucks her. She gets knocked unconscious, not from a punch, just getting knocked down. Then the kid goes down to her level, and now he's hitting this teacher like crazy.
Yes.
7 people come over, and all of them are so overweight they can't bend over to get the guy off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like 6 women and like 2 guys, and one being a police officer, and they couldn't get him off
Yeah.
because they physically couldn't get low. It's like, geez.
I didn't see the rest of the video. All I know is, when I told you about it, your first comment was, did the kid have special needs? And it turns out, supposedly he's been classified, and it was a violent rage, and he
you could tell this is not like a normal
unusually
reaction.
just stopped out of the blue, right? He kept going, and then stopped. So there was something definitely unusual about his reaction, the way it swelled up and the way it kind of stopped right away.
Yeah.
So that's probably another story. We don't even know all the details about it. It's still not acceptable what happened. Even if somebody has those kind of issues,
someone
they
has to be
shouldn't just
accountable for something like that. You
Right.
can't say, "Oh, well, you should have taken the Nintendo Switch or whatever." I think he's doing some prison time actually. So from what I saw.
Possibly, I don't know if they can make a case
it's a
that he
huge
had
assault.
issues.
Yeah.
And maybe she knew about his issues and she shouldn't have done that. Or I don't know. Maybe she triggered something. We don't know the whole story. All I know is you see something like that, and it's doubly bad when you see the people who are supposed to be protecting the school. Imagine if you had a kid in that school, and you saw that that's the first line of defense if somebody's bullying them and beats them up.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, that kid made it look so easy to take down that teacher, and no one did anything.
Well, he's usually big.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, he
But
could take down a lot of people.
Even if I was small, those people weren't getting to me. They
That's
were
what
too
I'm saying.
overweight. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other side of these stories. When I look at it,
He
and
probably
I go,
hits this lady, like, and it's not like fast, right? Everyone's out of shape. It's not fast. He was probably on for like a good minute before anyone was able to do anything. It was
Intervene.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could call it the bystander effect, I guess, a little bit, but it took
Some of
people a
these
while to
security
react.
guards, they're meant to do that
Yeah.
in that school. And I hope the parents of that school take a look at that video and, of course, be aghast at what they saw, but also pause and say, gosh, what if that was my kid that he just decided to pummel, or any kid? This is your first response?
Yeah.
This is what's going to come and save my kid?
So it sounds like he's going to be doing some juvie time. So she's on the ground, hit her more than a dozen times on her body and head. Yeah.
Well,
And
I would
was
like to
surprised she
know
let
the
me
full
down.
extent of that story because, I think we've said this before. Everyone's very quick to mainstream kids in school. And I'm not so sure that should be the first response with some of these individuals. Because if the story comes out like, well, it wasn't his fault, he's got a violent streak and, whatever. Not saying whatever the boy's issues are, they are what they are. But then you really need to evaluate. Do you want somebody like that who can have a violent reaction to something that every kid's had something taken away from them in school? A notebook, probably a laptop, a cell phone, I'm sure. That's pretty common because kids pull them out. Is that an acceptable response to beat up on another person, especially when you're that size?
Yeah.
So don't tell me he should be in school if that's a common response.
6'6", 270. I mean, that's a tough guy to handle, even for like the strongest people.
Yeah.
That's not easy. Most adults can't handle that. Like in shape adults can't handle 270.
And by the way, the school and the parents are lucky he didn't kill her when he
Exactly.
threw her down.
Yeah.
She hit her head on something?
Yeah, she got knocked out right away from the knockdown. That's not even from the actual punches. He was hitting her while unconscious.
Yeah. Well, we're not sure about that. She might have been laying low because she didn't have a response. I don't know. I can't
It's
tell from
weird
video.
to be getting hit and not move. Right?
Well, you would think
like
that you
re-
would guard
yeah,
your
natural
block
reaction
head
is
or
gonna be
something. That's true.
So she's face down, and he's like. But what's weird to me was, and this is how you know something mentally is not there. When you're trying to really do harm to someone, you're probably going for the head to hit someone, but he's just like stomping her butt and like getting the ribs and stuff.
Yeah, he's not normal.
It's
in
not.
that
And then when
sense.
they pull him off, he's still trying to kick at the ribs and stuff. So there is a mental thing there, no question about it. But that doesn't excuse the action.
Right.
That's the big problem. That is going to have to be
Well,
addressed.
the action, and now take it to the next level. What's the policy of this school? That's their first responders. Okay, you got some issues there.
Yeah.
If this is, I'm sure it's a very big school in Florida. You know, it looks like it's a large private school. It looked like a well-funded, from what I could see in the picture. But what are your policies there? I think a lot of schools need to start taking a step back and looking at what's going on in these schools and saying, you know, we got to crack down in some areas. We can't just be all liberal with everything and anything goes. And, you know, you can knock down a teacher and because he has special needs, we're going to prosecute. But, you know, he'll be out and goes back to school or some ridiculous thing. There was that last week. Did we talk about it? The kid being beaten up on the bus? Maybe it was 2 podcasts ago. Okay. I think the student was back in school the next day. The girl that did the beating, it was a boy who beat up the 9-year-old on the school bus.
I don't
parents
think we
were
talked
appalled.
about that.
The parents were appalled. And I thought, okay, it's a juvenile because they're on a school bus. But the kid was a 10th grader beating up on a 9-year-old. He was a large
I feel like
kid.
we don't use juvie enough. I think there has to be more juvie, more kids going to juvie for certain things.
Yeah, I mean, what happened to that? Because all I ever hear is, well, they don't qualify as an adult. So what? But meanwhile, they're back in school the next day.
Yeah,
okay?
that's insane. That's wild to me. Like, yeah, you would think that there's more juveniles, which I'm sure there are, but they don't do prison time.
Well, not that. Think about those kids going back to school. The kid that just beat you up on the bus is now walking in the classrooms with you. So for adults, pause for a minute because we go nuts if a man just looks at a woman in the workplace and says something inappropriate. He gets fired, sent off, you know, ostracized. These poor kids have to go back to school with their stalkers, if you will, their abusers, sitting in the desk next to them. No restraining order, nothing. There was another case where one of the kids was supposed to have, the student had a restraining order. Parent had a restraining put on. I think a week later, beat this other kid up on a bus. And the parent's like, it was a single mom. And she's like, I had a restraining order. What is this kid doing? Well, the school's like, you know, there's only so much we could do.
Oh, my God, yeah, that's such a problem. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
These schools are turning into jungles. And we're not just talking inner city, bad, blah, 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 blah. Some of these schools are very nice areas, but there's a massive amount of kids, and the kids are running the school. More so than the parents and even the administrators sometimes. This is what's going to happen. And now they're starting to go after a lot of the teachers. Every so often you see these videos of kids beating up on teachers in the classroom.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't help when every kid's on some kind of medication. Speaking of medication.
Yeah, there we go.
Biden's proposal to ban online prescribing of certain drugs. So we somewhat touched upon this at dinner. So what they're saying here, and this is, we talked about the fine line. So basically what this is a proposal of is the actual prescription drugs. It's kind of written weird. They're basically saying, well, you can't prescribe stuff online. So like if, I guess there's ways to get written, it's always when we do the podcast, I get like bloated or something. Like something happens where like, I guess I'm talking too much and my body's not used to it. Which is weird because I stream for 5 hours and I never have that problem.
Chugging down your coffee so you could do this problem.
Yeah. So, basically, I guess certain doctors or certain places in this country will auto-prescribe stuff online. But I guess because it's an auto... Ozempic. So, I guess because there's so many people on certain prescription drugs, it does like an auto... reoccurrence, if you will.
Yeah.
So like for ADD medicine, for instance.
Auto refill.
Basically, yes. So it'll auto prescribe rather than the doctor actually writing stuff out. But it doesn't factor in, like say this kid doesn't need it anymore or whatever. It still does the auto pay or whatever and then sends the drugs anyway. So they want to get rid of this stuff because, I mean, the drugs...
Well, let me just tell you, I ordered vitamins recently online. Mm-hmm. Everything nowadays, you can do a subscription. Well, they'll send you a certain number every 30 days and bill you for it.
Or you can subscribe to the channel, become a member.
That's true too.
Promotion.
Yeah.
Someone's like, you got to get better at that. I was
Sign
like,
up through Amazon.
Yeah.
Subscribe. Sponsor us.
No.
Amazon.
Well, we have the memberships now, right? So you can join the memberships because we got approved for those.
That's right.
Man, I sliced my finger so bad this week that I can't even like it feels weird to rub stuff. But that's besides the point. Anyway.
Beside the point.
So
put something on it.
So,
it
well, it's healed. It's just that the skin is
You
like.
gotta put something on those cuticles. Edit that out.
Yeah. So, well, no. Anyway, some medicines like Ritalin, Vicodin would require an in-person doctor's visit. Makes sense. But the other part of this that they're not really touching on is they want to ban the non-FDA stuff. So what that means is, let's say you have Ritalin, Vicodin. Technically, I could go to a secondary market. So ones like Amazon has and Mark Cuban, they have their own medical companies that sell pharmaceuticals. Thank you. That sell basically different brands that are much cheaper. So the other half of this proposal, which kind of isn't covered, is they want to make sure that basically guys like it essentially hurts Amazon and Mark Cuban's company from a financial standpoint because they can't sell their stuff anymore, even if it's under prescription.
Yeah.
So
there are many, by the way. It's not just that.
Right. Those are just the two off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And that I really know of, and that are in the limelight.
Those are the most well-known ones, but there's a lot of smaller ones that would like to take advantage of it.
Exactly.
But you can't.
So, and some of those companies are absolute crap companies that sell fake drugs. Dad, you good in there? Okay. They're fake. They sell. There's fake companies out there.
Right.
That will sell fake medicines, then say, "Oh, this is the exact same thing, just a weaker brand or different brand,"
right.
And it does nothing. It's just like a sugar pill, and it's a placebo.
Well, as an aside, Amazon used to have a neat little feature for those of us with older relatives that may take a lot of pills. They'll sell your prescriptions in packets for each day.
Oh, that's nice.
So you take your day, and all your pills are in there, but you have to set it up with them, and they will package it, and it comes out like a little strip. I'm pretty sure it was Amazon. Don't hold me for that. And each set of pills are in that day.
Well, Amazon has the money to work with doctors, like actual people, whereas, and so does Mark Cuban, but the smaller companies that we don't hear about, they can't do that. Yes. So they sell literal snake oil, right? So in a certain sense, I understand this ban. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
But the other half of that is, okay, well, now you're just monopolizing big pharma again, because now you have to buy from these big companies. So it's like that double-edged sword that's just not great. That slippery slope that will go down.
Well, the other thing I would say is when you order contacts, they have to get the prescription from the doctor. Mm-hmm. And even if you order it, auto order, after a certain number of time the prescription expires, they will not ship your contacts until they get an updated prescription. So it helps the doctors because it forces you to go see them, and you pay for a doctor's visit, you get your eyes checked and everything. And it helps them because they have paper trail. Cover your ass. We have the prescription, the doctor says it. If they kept sending you the same contacts, after a while they're not doing anything for you, or they might even be damaging your eyes, they could be liable. You can do it. Doctors can upload prescriptions to even the small ones online. Point is, what are you giving people if you're giving generics or you're giving the actual drugs?
Right. Now, the other downside to this is the people that now can't get their online prescriptions, they're going to go to some quack doctor who's just going to give them opioids, right?
Well, or they'll go to a pharmacy. You can't do it online.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to do it in the...
So there's positives and negatives to this one.
Yeah.
I think that it's a good idea in principle, but I think this one's going to fall short. Like, I don't think that it's going to work very well. So it probably won't even get passed, truthfully, the idea. I don't think that it'll go through, but...
Well, there is something that this country was built on, buyer beware, right?
Yep.
If you're going to go to a small mom and pop online site to get your medication, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, you want to know that you can regulate the mom and pop sites to say if they're going to give you Adderall, it better be Adderall, right? Mm-hmm. That I can see the federal government doing. But if I choose to go to a smaller one versus an Amazon versus a CVS or wherever, that should be up to me and probably be driven by price or convenience or whatever. Mm-hmm. As long as the pill is an Adderall pill, which, I assume there's a way to say that it's an Adderall pill. What's to stop Amazon from giving placebo Adderall pills?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's really checking, other than we have things in place where you're not supposed to just
I think the argument would be that Amazon has a certain image that they have to keep up, and I think with their medication, they're not even going to risk it. I'm sure Amazon is like they have their own pharmacy. We're not talking about regular Amazon where it's like anyone can post their thing and have it bought in masses. Right? This is just pharma stuff.
Oh, yeah, they have their Amazon
So
pharmacy.
there's actually not too many off brands on Amazon, and the ones that are off brand are not like big drugs. It's like certain forms of
Right.
like pre-workout or medical like health stuff.
Yeah.
Not basic or like I shouldn't say basic, but like real necessities like a Vyvanse or an Adderall or whatever, or opioids.
Well,
for
when you
instance.
get into, how about antibiotics? Everybody takes those, ear infections
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Kids are constantly on those when they're sick from school. Nutraceuticals.
Nutraceuticals, yeah.
So that's a big area where now you get all the CBDs going in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you regulate those? How do you do the quality of them? That's an industry in and of itself.
Yeah.
And, for many people, they just think, oh, it's cannabis, But as we know from our experience working with these companies, there's a whole industry out there that's really not completely accepted by the FDA yet, right?
Yeah.
I think it's still in the process and they're reluctantly giving into it, which is ironic because they fight you on that, but yet we've got cannabis clinics all over the cities.
Yeah, the irony also is medical marijuana has been a thing for many years now.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was legalized, quote unquote. Now it's legalized. You have dispensaries. We've gone down the rabbit hole of the problem with the dispensaries,
Mm-hmm.
but it constantly feels like they're trying to monopolize it in their favor. Again, I guess it kind of like when you think about it logically, it kind of makes sense as to them doing that, but it's not the right way of doing it. Like I get it. I understand why you do it. It's not the right way of doing it. But it does, to a certain extent, regulate the safety of certain things. And then dispensaries are kind of the opposite of that. They were like, yeah, you can sell it. And the dispensaries like, cool. And then they start augmenting it.
Can I just say, whenever the government gets involved in something, it's usually not about safety. It's usually about either control or money.
Yeah.
So
I like to think that there's some hope.
Don't.
Yeah. I like to think that there's a little, like, the principle of it is still there. But,
I'm older than you are. Don't. It's just not.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when you knowing that, now you know the angle. You don't go into pie in the sky. All right, who's this really benefiting?
Yeah,
And is
you have
that
to- yeah.
acceptable? Are we just doing it to line the pockets of more pharmaceutical companies? Well, you know what? We learned from this recent catastrophe that they're making a lot of money on their own as it is. I don't think they need the government regulating more stuff.
Right.
If it's to
What I
benefit
mean is, like,
people-
if the government, if I saw Vyvanse or some Adderall thing, so let's specifically say Adderall, a famous one, the most famous one. If I saw Adderall from a government site, like an actual pharmaceutical website that the government owns or wants is regulated, versus a non-regulated site that's selling some fake Adderall, and by fake I mean the same thing but a different brand,
Yeah.
I'm probably still going to go with the regulated one, just for safety reasons, right? Wouldn't you?
I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
No, I'm
I
telling
think
you,
the
I don't
mass
know anymore
population.
because, here's the thing. I've become even more of a libertarian, and I'm not trying to get political here, but I just feel like anytime the government gets involved, now they're so deeply into the pharmaceutical industry, what we've learned over the last few years, that I've never realized how grossly involved they are.
Right.
That's a form of socialism when the government takes over industries, right?
Yep.
That's not good. They're not meant
Agree.
to do that. They don't know medications. Nowhere in our Constitution does it say the government has to learn how to clear medications. That shouldn't be the role to regulate it. We have organizations, the FDA, the blah, 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 blah. They're already out there. They should be monitoring what people are buying and selling. Nobody should be able to just go in. I mean, pharmacists have to pass all sorts of certifications and whatnot.
Right. The problem with this is now that you have I guess before this, I should say, and this is the good side of this proposal, of Biden's proposal here, is that now they can't just do like an auto-populate, just send a prescription anymore, right? Now it's more regulated in the sense of this kid's not going to be able to store 15 things of Vyvanse for the next 15 months that he's not using.
But we used to have a means of stopping that. Certain prescriptions that can only be refilled X number of times. I go back to what I said about the contacts. You could do the same thing with Adderall. You can't buy 50 of them, or if you do, you can't use them in 30 days. You won't get another prescription until 51 days or whatever the system. We have the means of regulating it already. And you put the burden on the doctor who writes that prescription. If they want to go file it, fill it, at the guy down the street. They're going to confer with the doctor.
Right.
If you want
But now
to
you don't have to confer with the doctor. So like what this is stopping is like, let's say I get 15 pills of an Adderall or whatever. You used to have to tell your doctor, hey, I'm out, and then the doctor, or well, I guess it's technically a psychiatrist, but in this we'll just use doctor. You would say to the doctor, hey, my thing's up, and they go, okay, come on in, let's talk about it, let's see what you need.
Yeah.
They assess you, see if you still need it,
Yep.
and then you get your next prescription. Now it's just, let's just put it on a recurring subscription. Yeah. This proposal gets rid of that, so that certain medications you have to go back in for. This one,
but we already had that built in. That's my point. We didn't need it.
Right. It
was already sale phase. What do you call it? A checkpoint, where you just didn't write a prescription and it was good forever. Mm-hmm. They expire. Even amoxicillin and augmentin prescriptions, which are nothing prescriptions, they expire. When you have controlled substances, there's a certain pad that the doctors have to use to write those prescriptions. A triplicate has to be filed with the government. If you want to go fill it through Amazon and they can do it cheaper, I'm not saying don't do that. All I'm saying is the burden's now on Amazon and their staff of doctors to contact the doctor who filled it and verify that this is legitimate. And if the prescription says they can't get it after X number, nowadays, because you don't even get a prescription in your hand, they forward it right to the pharmacy online. They can forward it to Amazon, but they put right on there, only 3 months supply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just changed. Like I know it sucks, but at least this kind of stops the change a little bit. Like it hinders the change that we're talking about.
It's funny. I didn't know that this was such a problem. Sometimes I wonder, of all the problems we have, this is what we're working on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
So another one of Biden's orders, for some reason, one thing that annoys me about this Mac, and I don't know how to fix it because it's literally the same Chrome. It doesn't let me see certain websites. It says that there's like it says Fox News is not private, which is hilarious. So kind of shows you like Apple does not like Fox News. But anyway, basically this was
I've never had a problem with it.
Yeah, it's only on my Mac for some reason. It's definitely some kind of security thing that I have to fix, but I have no clue how to fix it.
Software update maybe?
This computer doesn't update anymore. Maybe. But
oh, wow.
This computer's a little too old now. This is like a 28, well, it's 2014 maybe, but either way. So Biden started sending the relief to Ohio. We talked about last week, the Ohio incident, the railroad. But here's the problem with this, right? And we talked about it. Biden. I just did that on Biden. Biden refused to send anything over, right? He said, no, we're not helping Ohio at all because, I don't know why you would do that. And then
FEMA. It was through FEMA. Like send FEMA. Federal emergency
money.
Something.
They felt that they didn't need it, right? Or whatever. The White House felt that they didn't need it.
Yeah, initially they said, no, we're not going to send that.
Yeah.
It was a local issue.
So Trump goes, guess what? I'm going to do something about it, right? He just did a full press conference, I guess you could say, about it, like a press release, thanking all these people. They brought pallets and pallets of good water, fresh water, certain housing. Did you see how much McDonald's he sent?
Yep.
So much McDonald's. And then all of a sudden Biden goes, oh, Trump's doing it? Okay, we'll help. Now it's like, see how quickly they change because it makes Trump look good?
No, none of that. You see that we're in a race
still
for the 2024.
Exactly.
So President Trump has announced that he is running in 2024.
Nikki
Haley is running, and he did this a month ago or so.
Yeah.
So now when he does stuff, it matters even more because we're moving in. It's only, somebody said it, 18 months in the till the next election?
Maybe.
I have to do the math. So we are in the 2024 election season. We're moving into it very rapidly. Having said that, that's how you know. No, it's got to be fewer than that. Now Biden has to respond if he's going to be a candidate.
But see, Biden only did this because Trump was helping out immensely. Right? He's sending, as I said, he sent a bunch of stuff over to Ohio.
He had a big photo op. As a candidate, and not just versus Biden, but the point is, the current president of the United States, regardless of how you feel about the individual, they're expected to do that. We went through this, as I said, at dinner with President Bush when we had Hurricane Katrina, which affected mostly people in the South, and they gave President Bush he could do nothing right about that. There was nothing right he could do, and that was a natural disaster. This was not a natural disaster. This was a caused disaster, and we're not sure why.
Well, accidental. To say caused, it's like
No. Somebody did the wrong kind of.
Oh,
burn.
I thought you meant the actual
No.
situation. No, yeah, you're right.
The derailment is a problem in itself. We have
Yeah.
them all the time, but that's a problem. What the response to it might have been criminal because we're not sure. I still don't know all the facts of why did they do it that way? Who decided to do that?
Yeah.
Do
We'll
they realize
never
the
know.
problem?
We'll probably never know for at least a year until something gets. I don't think we're going to find out who.
Oftentimes, you don't find out until the current person is out of office, and then somebody else comes in, and
Yeah.
now you start getting all the facts that we didn't know about.
So it's going to be a while, but
It'll be a while, but you're right. It's an election year, and President
they're not
Trump
going
had
to
a
talk
great
about it
photo
till
op.
after. Yeah.
The people loved him there because that's
Yeah,
his base.
I didn't realize he has a 95% rating there. Like 95% of Ohio voted for Trump.
Well,
Isn't that insane?
Let's give the counterpoint. I told you about Joy Behar on The View.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Oh, no, don't give that counterpoint. I know what you're talking about.
Oh,
I don't want to edit that out.
But
yeah.
that's the other side of it, where
Yeah.
people look at it like, well, that's pro-Trump country.
Yeah.
Of course, he's gonna have a
basically
good
what this
response
lady
there.
said, and I'll say it because I feel like you're going to word it where I'm going to have to get demonetized on this one. But basically she said, well, don't give the people in Ohio help because they voted for Trump. We're all Americans. You help out other Americans.
Well,
when
yeah,
we have a
that's
problem, so
sort of what she said, but
yeah,
not really.
It's
but
ballpark.
yeah, I mean that's the point. That's his. That happens to be an area that is very conservative.
Yeah.
It's blue collar. It's not wealthy, for
Yeah.
people. I don't know if we talked about it in the last podcast, but it's a poor. These are not wealthy people.
Yeah,
They're
blue collar,
hardworking
yeah.
people. They can't go anywhere else, right? And many of them are making a good point. We're putting illegals up for $600 a night hotels in New York City, and we're told by our government, well, go somewhere else. If you go to a hotel, if you can't stay there.
Right. It's
Okay.
instead
They
of
can't
getting
afford-
help. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They can't afford to do that any more than illegals can in New York, and they're going to 5-star hotels that are being opened up for these individuals. And you're telling an American citizen, well, kind of not my problem, go to a hotel. Sorry to hear it. From your own government that, in essence was supposed to avoid having this happen, and they didn't. Send somebody in to help when it did happen, and they didn't. And finally, somebody who's not even in office anymore had to come and do it just to get the government's attention to say, all right, maybe we should do something.
The other stupid thing I've heard was that the governor who asked for help denied help from Biden. It's like, hey, how does that make any sense? The guy's asking the White House for help. Biden says, what, yes? And then he goes, you know what, I don't want it from you. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
so anyone who's telling you that's an idiot.
Right.
But
the governor has some questions to answer about this too.
Absolutely.
He was involved
Yes.
in it to some extent, and he admitted that. And his press conference about it when it first started, and the second one and the third one are all kind of, I don't know. You look at the situation, something stinks there. There's something that just wasn't right.
Something's not. Someone made a stupid call that. My guess is they didn't understand the weight of the decision that they made at the time, and I think there is some. I don't want to say fairness to that, but what I mean is, like, if I was in that situation, I mean, obviously you'd go through all the checklist, your due diligence of what do we do here. But I think in the moment where it's like, oh, this is burnable, let's just burn it and get it into the air, maybe there's a problem with that. But if something happens, you still have to be accountable for it. We can't be going, well, he said, she said.
Well, there's a problem with it either way. Number one, when you have that, you are supposed to, and I believe legally supposed to, contact the EPA.
EPA, yes.
So, assuming that didn't happen, the local people are at fault. If it did happen, the EPA said, just go ahead and burn it. That's a problem too. So no matter how you look at this, something went wrong somewhere, and somebody's liable somewhere.
Absolutely.
This wasn't just we made a mistake. Somebody made a mistake and intentionally tried to hide it. And the old expression is always true. Oftentimes, the cover-up is worse than the crime. Some people, they scramble so hard to cover up what was a stupid but criminal mistake, and they try and cover it up, and they turn it into a bigger mess where you walk away doubting anything that comes out of their mouths about anything going forward. So it's really damaging when you just don't address it. But no matter what you say, we talked about this. The EPA is up your butt for everything in this country.
Yeah.
How did they allow that? They should be screaming more than the citizens there that, why were we not called? Why did you do this? Why? And it's interesting that we're not hearing that.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder
you're right.
what's going on.
So yeah, we'll never know the answer though.
Yeah.
That's what's annoying. Speaking of their health, what's going on with Fitbit? You know, I saw this article and I was like, wow, I haven't heard of a Fitbit in a while.
Fitbit.
Remember the Fitbits?
Yeah.
Fitbits were like a couple years, 5 years ago. Everyone had one. It was like the new Fit thing. So I didn't realize what happened to this thing.
Then the Apple Watch came out.
Yeah, probably
Apple
about
Watch
that time.
came in, yeah, Apple did more.
They had the Apple Watch before that, but the Apple Watch wasn't made for health and stuff. Now it's a little more health centered. But actually, the other thing that killed them was the where's my Woop? I don't have a Woop. My
Woop.
Oh, here it is. My Woop. The band's not on. I have to. My friend gave me a Woop, and it works a lot better. But the problem is, it's just so. The Whoop's expensive, I'll say that, and then you have to pay for a subscription plan on top of it. It's like, no wonder people are so unhealthy and don't want to get one of these. It's $250 for just the device itself, and then an extra $30 a month for.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot for $30 a month for a band that you just keep on you at all times, and then it just really monitors sleep. It's good for sleep.
Well, and I'll tell you, but you say that I had gotten the Fitbit when it first came out. Not when it first came out, but because I wanted to monitor my sleep habits, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, this kind of bothers me having this thing. I'm not one to wear anything at night.
It was pretty bulky back then, though.
Yeah.
Like, it was a big. Now they've gotten a lot slimmer.
But now my Apple Watch, okay, when you charge it, when you put it down on the charger, there's like a green light that comes out of that, right?
Yeah.
So once again, I'm like, I don't want these things glowing, radiating, doing stuff 24/7 on my skin, let alone at night while I'm sleeping. I know that sounds a little kooky, but a lot of this stuff, what's it doing to me? It's not normal to have electronics strapped to you 24/7, generating, I don't know, pulses, whatever, magnetic, blah, 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 to get information out of you.
I don't think that's actually true. I think that's in your head. No,
Well,
that's not really true anymore.
We're still waiting for the definitive report about cell phones. Fortunately, now people don't have to have it next to their ear. But we went through years and years of, does it cause tumors to have these phones next to your ear for the battery?
Yeah, that's false. That was fake news.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's tons of studies on that.
No,
That's
I know.
not true.
Who did the studies?
A lot of scientists.
Yeah,
and
what
doctors
scientists?
Well, we could play that.
Exactly.
We could play that game all day.
I
but
know. And you
how
do
many
it both ways.
How many people have cell phones and how many of them have brain tumors? That's kind of an easy.
Well, I don't know, but I very rarely have my cell phone up to my ear anymore, right? Because now people with earbuds.
Well, yeah, now, yeah.
Right?
But
Or use
earbuds have
speakerphone.
the same device in it, so if you're wearing headphones
I know,
or
but
earphones.
I think the battery in the cell phones were bigger. And plus, too, this was older stuff, too. We're talking
Yeah,
like
maybe
10
back
years
in
ago.
maybe 10 years ago,
Pulled
but
out
no.
the antenna.
Yeah, that's different because now you're getting like waves of So what happened to the Fitbit? And I thought this was pretty interesting because I didn't realize how crazy the Fitbit kind of got. So Fitbit got bought out by Google. Everything Google touches goes.
Yeah.
Listen, it's not that it's bad, but this is what Google did. They're like, hey, we can factor in Starbucks into your health
daily
routine.
health.
Yeah. But it's like, here's the nearest Starbucks. Go get Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
It became an advertisement thing. So they ended up killing the Fitbit with the like it was getting harder and harder to find any of your health information, and a lot easier to get more advertisements like, hey, you can have a coffee right now and you'll be fine.
Oh,
hey, let's do our workout later. It's just, I find that so funny that you have this health device. That is made to make you be healthier, and they're promoting, not that coffee's unhealthy or whatever. I mean, we can go down that path, but it's just the fact that I bought this for health, and you're saying, hey, less health. Let's go buy some stuff. Let's go get coffee. Let's go. Yeah. Oh, here's a healthy shake for you. It's like, hey, I'm just trying to get through my workout and know what my beats permission. Yeah. I mean, it's like, hey, I get this. I just think that's so funny how I get this for health and fitness. I want to know my heart rate. I want to know how my sleep is, how my blank is, and then my macros. And then Google goes, we're going to buy it. By the way, you want a coffee right now? Here's the nearest coffee shop. Yeah. You want a smoothie right now? It's a healthy smoothie right down the street. So they killed it. They killed it with apps. They killed it with they turned it into a advertising platform that no one wants. That's not why we bought it.
Right.
It's Google. What are you doing?
Right. Are you spending all your time like swiping out of ads just to get to the basic programs?
Or you can pay X amount of dollars so that you get rid of those advertisements.
Of
but it's still going to give you the Starbucks places. It's going to give you the Dunkin' Donuts. You can have this right now. Here's your macros. This is only 300 calories. This donut.
And we wonder why all those people were fat at that school.
Yeah. And that's why your Fitbit, your skin's flying out of your Fitbit. Now the Woop, on the other hand, the Woop's really good. As I was saying, it's not bought out. Woop is owned by Woop. Well, actually, I don't know if it's owned by something, but I know it's not Google. But it's a very good app. Strongly recommend. It's just so darn expensive. That's the problem. And like,
I'd never see you using it.
Because I don't pay the $30 a month. There's no subscription thing. So what I mean by that is, I'm sorry, there's a subscription, but you can't use it unless you have the subscription. There's no free version.
Oh, so what was the point of getting it?
Well, it was a gift. But
Oh.
I wasn't gonna.
It's not worth the $30.
Sorry, my friend, I can't use it. Yeah, no, I don't. I'm generally pretty healthy in the sense of how I know my body pretty well,
Yeah.
right? So I work out pretty regularly too. So I don't really need it. It's nice to have, but I can't justify the price for me already being told what I already do. Right? That's what the Whoop's going to tell me. Again, could you lose some weight? Absolutely. Could you sleep better?
Now,
Absolutely.
if it tells you put down the Starbucks, you've had enough.
That's
different.
valuable. That's valuable.
Okay.
But I don't think we have one that does that.
No.
Most people just use the Whoop because it's very accurate when it comes to your sleep. Like it'll tell you how to fix your sleep.
Oh.
So that's the good one. But again, $30 a month to tell me to go to bed, that's a tough justifiable price. So
Yeah, but some people
on
need
top
that.
of but on top of a $250 bracelet, that's a lot.
Well, I will say this: $30 a month is not bad if it keeps you on a healthy workout. Blah 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 blah. Right?
Well, it doesn't do that. It's just monitoring. It doesn't actually give you any information.
Right,
that's
but
useful.
if you're somebody who's serious about getting into shape, say you want to run a marathon or something, that's something you normally do. It's not bad to do the $30 a month.
Yeah.
To get you to
You're
monitor
right.
what you're doing, see what you're up to. I mean, think about it. 4 months is only $120. You could spend that in a week at a gym, a high
That's true,
gym.
but you're still. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right in that regard.
So from a subscription perspective, it's not that high, but if you're not going to use it and you're just wearing it to say, oh, look, my heart rate's this right now, that's a waste for $30 a month. I agree.
Yeah. So for me, it doesn't. If I was really out of shape, like if we knew someone who was really out of shape, I'd give them that.
I know
Fitbit.
plenty.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to out anyone, but if I'd give them that Fitbit just to try it, see if they like it, and see how much it changes their lives over.
Well, they
4 or
got to
5
be
months.
committed to following and tracking to say.
Yeah,
right, now
I mean
gotta
every
adjust.
day the Whoop's very good at telling you in the mornings, like, hey, it comes up as a notification. This is how you slept. This is what you need to do today. As in, this is how many calories we need to lose to get to a certain point. So
Now,
it's
see, I
very
think
good
that
about
would
that.
Be very. That's great for somebody.
Exactly.
So would you have to program in like I want to weigh a certain amount by?
It does it in a healthy way. So like, let's say you're 400 pounds. It'll say, hey, we got to get down to 300 within the next year. Right.
Okay.
So it's not like it's doing crazy. It knows like, hey, let's do a certain amount of
But
time.
do you program that in?
You program your weight, your height, and all that stuff. It actually generates this is your best time to sleep. It just chooses what the healthiest parts of your life are based on what it's learning from you just living your life with the band on.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So you still have to give it like, oh, I want to get down to this body fat or this weight. But for the most part, it's pretty good about it. So.
Yeah. Well, again, that's not bad if you're disciplined enough to follow it and say, all right, I want to have a good month because I want to do something special, a marathon or whatever. Let me Whoop get me going and set me up.
The Whoop is by far the best. The Whoop is by far the best. The Fitbit is good, but because of all the advertisements on it, it's almost unusable.
Yeah. It kind of ruined that one.
Which Google, great job, you idiots.
Yeah.
So, that's why I would get a Whoop. But again, the price is just so hard to justify. If you're someone who's just on the edge, and unless your like life goal is to lose weight, I can't see. Or if you're an athlete, I just can't see anyone going with the Whoop either. So I don't know what you do. You have to make like a cheap alternative, but we don't have one.
Well, and I'm sure the Fitbit has come a lot farther than when I first had it.
Yeah.
But all the information I got out of the Fitbit when I first had it, I'm getting that and more on my Apple Watch. It cost me nothing.
Yeah, I don't really look at
it cost me my service for my cell phone, which I was going to have anyhow.
I don't really look at the Fitbit anymore. Like, I don't know what it's actually able to do. But same with the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch, I don't know the pros and cons of it. I don't know how accurate it is either. Because it's not its main priority isn't the health and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Whoop and Fitbit, the priority is supposed to be just health.
Yeah.
So, Apple Watch, I don't know how good it is.
I'm more intrigued by, and I don't have any information or article about it, but I see these ads and I saw a headline. These apps that will trace your blood sugar level so you don't have to prick your finger every day with the blood for the people who are. And it sounds like they're coming up with ones where you don't have to have the constant, pick line, I guess you call it, blood line, where you just swipe your phone over and it tells you your blood, which is great in and of itself for these people.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think I just read something where they're coming up with something that tests your blood where you don't have
I'm
to
not
do that
surprised.
with your
Once the one that always blew my mind and still blows my mind is when they test your temperature with that laser. They just shoot at your head.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's got to be a way to do this with other stuff. Like, there's no
my
way.
mind is that thing's not right.
Really? Yeah, the laser? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a 50-50. I like to think it's
put
good.
on your finger to get
The pulse?
your pulse ox and everything. I'm like,
I have to think,
you
even though our medical, we can talk about the corruption of medical, all the stuff that they give us, like machine-wise, seems to work pretty well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. Speaking of health and eating, U.S. food additives banned in Europe?
Yes.
Yeah,
Interesting little article. So, in the UK, also in China and India, they have banned potassium bromate. They don't use that. Where we find that? That's in most of our bread products in this country. Yeah. It's used to strengthen the dough. And there is evidence that it causes tumors. Mm-hmm. Okay? So the doctor that they interviewed is a British doctor, is Dr. Millstone, Eric Millstone. He's an expert on food additives at England's University of Sussex. He believes that we are way too exposed to these toxins in our country. And they asked his opinion about, what was the question? The U.S. has developed cancers that they would not have developed if they had been eating exclusively in Europe. Millstone said that was almost absolutely the conclusion that we could reach just based on our diet here and the amount of that we include in it. Now, he also added, we have titanium dioxide, brominated vegetable oil. Okay, this one I'm going to mess up. Azodicarbonide, and propylparaben. I'll tell you a funny paraben story. Growing up, Vansoon, Uncle Ray are listening. My grandmother, who was a fussbutt and eccentric, would freak out over paraben. Paraben is a wax. I don't know, propylparaben, I don't know. So when you would burn the candles on the cake and the wax would drip down, she would freak. She'd have to come with a butter knife and get all the wax off.
Really?
She didn't want you eating the wax. Not so crazy. Why should you eat wax? Like, we look at it like, it's not a big deal. It's just a little bit, Grandma. I'm not going to die. But sure enough, that's a problem. If you're putting it as a food additive, I could see that being a problem. So, in a statement to the news, the FDA said all food additives require, quote, pre-market evaluation, and, quote, regulations require evidence that each substance is safe at its intended level of use before it may be added to foods. Okay. If you want to believe it, that's fine. They seem to think it's safe. But as for me, I'm going to take a look and make sure I'm not putting too much potassium bromide in my system anymore.
I got a funny wax story, too, but it's kind of a random one. When I went through my skateboarding phase, there was, what you would do is they used to make these waxes, like special waxes, right, for your board, but also for rails and stuff. Mm-hmm. I remember we're sitting in a park one time.
Don't tell me some kid was eating it.
This kid looked me dead in the eyes, and he took the brown wax. He goes, I was at the skate park right down the street back when I was there.
There was a kid on the bus when I was younger. He sat there and he was eating his chapstick. I swear to God, he was eating the chapstick.
I've seen that a couple times. I've seen kids eat chalk.
But this is not flavored chapstick.
Bobo, no.
This is just plain old, good old-fashioned, waxy plastic, chapstick. And I was appalled. So that was, in the 70s? So Stacey McNamara is from upstate New York, but she's lived in London for a decade. She said raising children in the UK had opened her eyes to what's allowed in foods in the US.
Right. Well, people always say when they go overseas, like with pastas, like real pasta in other, like in Italy, for instance, I mean, it's incredibly different from what we have here. Excuse me, what we have here. Like, I can't even explain it because we've never been to Italy and had that real pasta. Plus,
you did have my lasagna tonight.
I hate pasta, but I don't hate it, but you know what I mean. But that lasagna was pretty good.
Maybe you'd like it if you had
the Italian
true
version.
Italian pasta.
So, Mom, tomorrow I'm gonna need you.
All right, we'll take a trip to Rome.
Mom,
and we'll try.
Are we gonna take the private jet? Which jet are we gonna take, Mom?
Yeah, right.
Okay, I don't have any more. You want to go right into some hotcakes?
Yeah, let's do the hotcakes.
Hotcakes. Okay, so we'll do the two first from. Or do we have two from Discord? Let's see. We have a question and then a hotcake. So let's do this one. Hot take. Activision and COD is just a series of glorified alphas meant to set me into a mental break. Okay, Zach. Wait, let me read this again. Activision and COD is just a series of glorified alphas meant to send me into a mental break. I mean, it's half joking, obviously, but
Zach, take a break from the games.
Yeah, put the Call of Duty down.
Put the Nintendo Switch down.
I think there is something to. I mean, so I just played a game. Okay, hold on. It's not necessarily a hot take. But so I just played a game that was supposed to be really big, like a huge game, Atomic Heart. It should be out by now. Video games are not what they used to be. So we just had a remaster of a huge game, right? Or let's say Hogwarts Legacy, for instance. We just had a huge game that everyone was so excited for. You play it and you go, oh, this isn't that good. And from a mental break perspective, it's like I'm starting to really see that the video games 10 years ago were so much better. Like there was more love and care put into them than they are now. Like this new Atomic Hearts game, which was supposed to be the next. When I was growing up, there was a big game franchise called BioShock. It was supposed to be the next BioShock, and it's not that it's bad. It's just not up to par with what I would consider a $60 game, right? Okay. I had the Games Pass though, so $1. Yep. So like that's when it pays off, right? But I can't imagine paying $60 for a game like that. Now, to your point of Call of Duty is not what it was when I was younger, right? It's gotten too out of hand. There's balancing issues. The real issue is cross-platform. Cross-platform absolutely ruined gaming, in my opinion, which I know people don't want to hear, but I don't want to play with those poor console players, Mom. Mom, they're so poor. 90 FOV, 60 frames, Mama. But I mean, obviously, that's not the. I get what you're saying, Zach. It's not what it used to be growing up, because I believe Zach's around my age too, maybe a little younger, but. Every time I play a game now, I'm always let down. It's kind of, except for Hogwarts. Hogwarts I thought was good, but the other hotcake that someone had was that, let's see, where was I? They didn't post it in hotcakes, but it was, I honestly don't get the hype of the game of Hogwarts Legacy. Maybe I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. Now, agreed, it's not like Hogwarts Legacy isn't like a crazy good game by any means. There's nothing that special about it. It's just like any other game. So if you're not a person that's into Hogwarts, it's like a 6 out of 10. Yeah. It's not anything that special. But if you like the lore of Hogwarts and Harry Potter, it's like a 9 out of 10. Like, because we haven't had a good game like that in the last 10 years. I also didn't realize how many Harry Potter games there are. There's a lot of them. Yeah. But I mean, this is by far the best one we've had. I platinumed it the other day, which was it was like a second job. It was so hard. So, yeah. But, so those are the only two hot takes that we had. We had one question, but let's see what other ones we can have. We'll go to Twitter, see what ones I see. Sometimes hot chocolate is better when it's made with water. Now, I'm a proponent of the milk. I don't know about you, but I used to do water with my hot chocolate. It was a no-go. What?
I don't even know how to respond for that.
What do you do? Do you not?
I don't know. I very rarely make real hot chocolate. We don't drink hot chocolate that much anymore. If I were to have it, I usually do it half water, half milk. But I've never really given it that much thought.
Oh, that's cheating. You can't do half and half.
Well, it doesn't tell you to. If you use powder, you're not supposed to do milk. You're supposed to add water.
That's a good point. I don't know if I've ever had real hot chocolate.
Yeah, I mean, I've had real hot chocolate. It's a pain to make.
Oh, is it? Yeah, you don't just melt down chocolate?
No. You got to get the milk out, use the cocoa, then you got to add the sugar. Some people put salt in it, too, to give it a little extra flavor. Yeah. You stir it, and some people do it with the chocolate syrup, the Hershey syrup, with the hot milk.
I feel like that's cheating. I feel like there's too much crap in Hershey syrup. Not that it's bad, but it's not chocolate. Like, it's not real chocolate. Here's what I would do. You tell me if I'm crazy. Ready? hot jar, metal jar, right? Like a cup. I take the milk, boil the milk. Then I take a whole thing of Hershey's, like a full Hershey's bar, dunk it in, let it melt in the milk. Now, question is, did I make hot chocolate or just make hot chocolate milk?
Well, that is what I'm saying. Yeah, hot cocoa, chocolate milk.
There's something different.
Milk's a little different.
Yeah. So I don't know. I truthfully don't know, but I mean, I used to do water growing up because I thought that was the right way, and then I realized once you do milk, it's just different.
Well, no, it's water if you have the powder, because you don't put the
I
powder
feel like the
into
powder's
milk.
cheating, though. I feel like the powder is not the real.
Oh, when's the last time you made real hot chocolate?
Well, I just said I've never done it.
I know.
But I don't consider the
How do you
hot
know
chocolate that we have as real. Like, real hot chocolate to me is someone's melting down the chocolate, putting the chocolate in somehow, right? Whether it be water or milk.
Remember that place at Universal, the dessert place? We waited forever.
Oh yeah,
And
that's the one reason I might. That might be. Oh, what is that place called? Hold on. Universal.
Loaded with every kind of chocolate you
When
could
we
think
went,
of.
we've been to Universal like 7
It's
times.
like the Fudge Factory or
Fudge. No, it's got like a special name. They added this place.
Chocolate
and we wanted
Factory,
to go all week. It's like the chocolate, something.
I think it was a factory
Fudge
place.
Factory. It's right in the center. You guys know what we're talking about if you've been there in the last year. The Chocolate Emporium. Remember?
That's
that
right.
place, it was sick, man, dude. We were in there. I mean, how long did we wait? You're completely right. We were in there for like an hour. Yeah. There were some people. They were getting stuff wrong. There was 50. We couldn't move.
Right.
We were like back. We were
waiting forever.
I was
but
real
you get
close to
these
slapping some kids.
enormous drinks that you can't even finish. With either ice cream, it's either cold or hot.
Correction, you couldn't finish. Your boy finished.
The average person couldn't finish.
It was delicious though.
Yeah.
It was mostly milkshakes. I don't remember.
I thought it was hot and cold drinks.
It looks like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yeah,
it's one of the coolest things ever.
And so when you said that about, I don't know anybody who makes real chocolate.
See, the way you know you've become an adult is because you become less excited for the rides and more excited for the chocolate emporium. I look forward to that all week. So,
Chris online for the Hulk. When are we going to the chocolate emporium?
I had it as my phone background. I was like, every time, what time is it?
He saw the line and said, "Isn't there an express pass for this?"
Yeah. That and the Voodoo Donuts.
Donuts.
If you haven't been to Universal Studios, the way it's set up is it's 2 parks. I call it 3 parks. One just for eating.
Food.
So you walk in and
Walk.
it kind of separate. Yeah, you have City Walk, which is almost like, think of it as half a football stadium, kind of like boom. And then you have the 2 parks, right?
Yeah, the rides and stuff.
Yeah. One park is.
And then hotels.
Yeah, one's roller coasters. The other one's more like movie-based rides. Not really
Universal Studios type.
I forget what the other one's called. Adventure Park, maybe?
Islands of Adventure.
Yeah. But, I mean, I was like, Mom, just drop me off at the food. We're good. They have a Whopper bar. Like, you can go to a Burger King Whopper bar and build your own Whopper.
I think they had a
Panda Express. That was the first time I've had Panda Express.
Yeah.
Kenny's like, get this. Not bad. I'm not a huge fast food. Like, I like the real stuff when it comes to Chinese food. We won't go on a Chinese food rant like we did last time.
But that chocolate emporium was unique, I have to say. We were all over that.
It's interesting, right? I don't know if that's a franchise or something, but
I don't know, but they were. It was a long line, and I kept thinking, and of course, it's like ridiculously priced stuff too. But once you get it, I just remember how big it was. I'm like, I'm not finishing this thing. Good thing we brought Chris.
Oh, I had it. I mean, I went back for seconds basically because remember we went back to the hotel we were with Aunt Susan and Jordan. They were like, we couldn't finish. I said, put it in the fridge. I got it. Waited an hour. Kenny and I were just watching old YouTube videos of mine. Oh, here's a gaming one that I completely agree with. Breath of the Wild is a terrible Zelda game. Agreed. I'll tell you why. You don't have to write down the questions, Mom.
Oh,
because questions I don't write those down. I just write it as a one whole thing, so you don't have to worry about questions for this or writing it down. Anyway, Breath of the Wild is an awful game. Breath of the Wild is a open. So, Mom, Zelda's
Breath of the Wild, it's called.
Well, it's Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
So that's the full title. So when you were growing up, right, you had Zelda. I don't even remember what the original Zeldas were called, but right,
I was growing up. I doubt that.
Oh yeah, when you probably 80s, but the first one probably came out.
I was in college in the 80s.
It's basically growing up.
No,
You're
60s
still a kid.
and 70s is growing up for me. I was born in '65. I was a kid in the 70s.
When was the first Zelda game? 86 was the first Zelda game. So, yeah. Anyway, so got more advanced over the time. But they made this open world Breath of the Wild that everyone's like, oh my God, it's one of the greatest games ever made. It sucks. I hate it. So I agree with this person. It's so bad. It's like, this is the problem, right? They made a game that probably wasn't that good. And they were like, let's just slap Zelda on it and use the name, right? And it's so bad. I'll fist fight anyone on that one. Chick-fil-A, more like mid-filet. The only good thing about that place is the customer service. Chicken is bad. By Yummy. Hey, Yummy. Publicly executed right there. Right to hell. Straight to hell.
Jeez.
I like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a good one. Anyone who says otherwise,
You know what? Of all the fast food places, if I had to go to one, I'd go to Chick-fil-A.
For health reasons, though?
No, not really. Just because
I'm with you.
I was very impressed with the one near us and others that we've been to. Lines are incredibly long, but they keep it moving. It's young people. They're very well organized. Again, where I've been. Especially during the pandemic when the restaurant wasn't open and they had to deal with everything outside. I thought the young people did a great job. They were the beginning ones, from what I could see, who were using the iPads to do orders as they walked down cars.
They were
so you didn't have to go
revolutionary.
to the kiosk and have to do all that stuff.
Well, they have God making the decisions.
God basically was involved.
God
with that.
whispered in their ear,
Yes.
use the iPads. I'll make you
do that.
successful.
Yeah, let's make these young people do it. So, yeah, and I just think in general, you can get healthy stuff there.
You can. Yeah, they have
You
good
can get it
salads
at
and
other
stuff.
places, but I don't know, the flavors are the same.
My fear is one day I'll know someone that... Oh, I actually do know someone that's worked at Chick-fil-A. I feel like the back... Like, you know how they talk about McDonald's, like, oh my God, it's like pink chicken at the beginning, and then they just reheat it?
Ew,
Like, you know,
never
it's
heard
like,
that.
it's like a lot of the stuff's fake.
Yeah.
Oh, you've never heard of the...
No, don't tell me.
who was the...
Don't destroy it for me.
who was... Ryan Seacrest, I think it was. He shows these kids how a chicken nugget's made. It's horrendous. You're like,
Okay,
oh my
don't
God,
tell
it's
me.
disgusting.
Yeah.
And then he goes, would you guys still eat this? And all the kids go, yeah. He's like, oh, well, that didn't work.
Dip it in the honey mustard. It's great.
Yeah, so anyway, I wonder what the back rooms are like.
No,
in
you
a
don't want to know
Chick-fil-A.
what the bag is.
Yeah, I probably don't. It would ruin my life. It's just Satan in there.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah, I'm gonna get this kid. I'm going to get this person.
yeah.
Spitting my food.
What's another good one? Let's see. Pineapple pizza is the best pizza. Ooh, that's a terrible. Honestly, that's just a straight up bad take.
I've never tried it. It is very popular, but I've never tried it.
No, it's popular amongst weird people.
Well, a
the-
lot of places have it now.
That
as
sounds like a
standard.
Hawaiian thing. But
No, it's a pretty standard pizza. Standard topping.
it's a test. That's what it is. It's a test.
Oh, yeah. It's no weirder than buffalo chicken, blah, blah, blah.
A protein on
Yeah.
pizza, pepperoni, the Legends mushrooms
It is
on
not
there
how
too?
God intended it for a pizza.
Oh, the Italian guy?
Yes. You just put cheese and maybe sliced meat, sausages and meatballs. That's it.
Crunchy peanut butter is better than smooth peanut butter.
You know,
I feel like you get better stuff. You get better protein out of the crunchy peanut butter because peanuts have a lot of.
I've seen Christopher downing both at night.
With my hands, scoop it.
What you got there, Chris? A couple people.
Mom, I'm eating it with strawberries.
People.
I dipped the whole thing in. Yeah, I like crunchy because I like the texture. I'm a texture person.
Like your grandmother.
Yeah,
She
I
likes
like
the
the
crunchy peanut
I like the
butter,
crunchy peanut butter. Makes me feel alive.
I catch her at night with a little crunchy peanut butter snack. I'm like, oh,
does
I
she?
got a little Christopher.
Yeah. Crunchy just because I feel like I'm actually eating something, whereas with smooth, there's something to it. I'm not a big PB&J guy. Like I don't like.
Yeah, no,
I'll
you
have
never-
it,
you
but
never
I'm
have
never too much work.
God. Nah, I don't go for the. I like peanuts. We're big into trail
I don't
mix
mind- yeah, I
in
don't
our
mind that.
house. I like peanuts, all different kinds. I'm just not a big fan of the crunchy kind. I feel like, oh, I wish this was smoother. If I wanted a peanut, I'd have a peanut.
Oh, pulp versus no pulp orange juice. Again, texture guy. I like the pulp. I feel like I get stronger when I eat the pulp.
All right, I always was indifferent, but no pulp is allowed. Pulp is not allowed in our house.
Why?
Because Dad used to say, I'm going to choke on it.
The pulp. How much pulp was he having?
Dad never wanted pulp in his orange juice because he's like, I'm going to choke on it. That was his thing.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm going to stop by it.
I've
So
never had that
bought-
much pulp. Interesting.
Some
I like
people
the
say
pulp.
the pulp is very good for you.
I gotta
'cause
think
it's like
it is,
having the fruit itself, but yeah. So I never got it just for that reason. I'm not a big orange juice person to begin with, so the few times I bought it, it was like, you bought it with pulp. I can't drink it.
Oh, really?
That was years ago.
I
'cause
could
never did it
drink
again.
pulp all day. This is a weird one. I feel like we have to try this, but I feel like we also shouldn't. I cook my salmon in the microwave with milk, and it tastes good.
Okay. You can cook in a microwave.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm too good for that. This is another one. No, something with milk. Eating popcorn, then drinking milk after eating a bit of popcorn, and it will make the milk taste amazing. What kind of popcorn are we talking about? Oh, I guess that's a joke. Never mind.
Oh.
Thank God. Oh, coffee is pretty good, but it absolutely pales in comparison to a good cup of tea. Now, I want you to know, this guy wrote cuppa, C-U-P-P-A. So he's obviously British, lesser people. So, I mean, of course he's going to pick the tea.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Tea to me, and maybe I am making it wrong. Here in America, we do the tea bags.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not in America, but we do the tea bags. Tetley tea. I grew up on Tetley. I feel like it's kind of just watered down, whereas coffee...
Well, yeah, Americans tend to drink. Well, I don't know if they drink more, but we're known as coffee drinkers. The British are known as tea drinkers because they have their tea time, right? That's the expected time of shutdown where everybody takes a break. I don't know if it's still true, but that used to be the rule. 2:00 tea time. Our country, we just suck down coffee all day.
Yeah.
We don't have any set time.
Yeah.
It keeps us going.
How many times? Wait, you drink coffee twice a day?
Usually, yeah, morning and night,
Okay.
or early evening.
Same
But
for me.
yeah, I might have one during the day if I didn't sleep well the night before, whatever, or if I'm out, or if I go out to eat, whatever. But what was my point? Oh, tea has an aftertaste for me. Now, coffee does too, but it's one that doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Tea has a very distinct aftertaste. Your dad is a tea drinker, although now he does those cappuccinos.
Dad could sell those things. That's
yeah.
how much he has them. He has the Geneva. Actually, I'm not even going to say it because we can't have people buying this out when we need it.
Yeah, not only
My
that,
dad
they
goes
should
through
be
so many-
sponsoring us if
Yeah.
they want us to say it.
Geneva, I think it is. Geneva cappuccinos, the yellow box.
Javalia.
Javalia. Close enough.
So sponsor us now.
Yeah, please.
Javalia
Need it.
cappuccinos, which are very good, by the way.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense how good they are for a water coffee company. Like it's a
Keurig.
Keurig. Yeah, it's a Keurig with a packet.
Yeah. He's been sucking those down for the last few years. Actually, it started with you kids. You
Yeah.
kids were drinking it for school
Yeah.
instead of coffee, and then
Having
Dad
those in
tried
high
one
school.
and he was hooked. But prior to that, he always drank tea, and it was always Tetley. So I always drank Tetley. And then Aunt Sue was doing some sort of event because Chris's aunt does party planning sometimes as a side job, or because she likes to do it. And she was doing a tea party, and they put boxes and boxes of tea bags out at this tea party with tea kettles. And she had like 500 of these left over. So every time I went to your grandmother's, she would have all these different kinds of teas because Grandma won't throw anything out. So I started trying different teas. And I'm like, why am I drinking this, sucking down this Tetley all these years? Which isn't bad, by the way. Feel free to sponsor us. But I was trying Bigelow, I was trying Earl Grey, I was trying all these different flavored ones, which I was like, well, this is nice for a change to try something different. So I don't mind tea.
Yeah.
I just, coffee is just kind of the go-to.
Yeah, I didn't mind Lipton tea. Now, so on that one.
Lipton or Tetley?
I've tried both. I
Oh.
didn't mind Lipton. Lipton was still watered down. Like all tea tastes watered down to me. But
See, now, if I had Lipton and Dad pulled that out of the pantry, he would throw it on the ground.
yeah, it's.
No,
I'm with him. Okay, so on the coffee topic, black coffee is the best. Adding cream of sugar to it is only necessary if the base coffee tastes bad and can ruin the complexity of a quality brew. Beneath the cream and sugar is the harsh reality that some aren't ready to face. A bad coffee, yeah. I'm with that. I only drink black coffee now. I'll have milk and sugar every now and then, but I have to really be in the mood
Well,
for it.
I don't know. You probably noticed now. You can tell a good coffee. You've drank
Yes.
enough of it now.
Yeah.
So, or a week. Like for me, if you're a real coffee drinker, like a serious coffee drinker, I can take bad coffee. I just can't take weak coffee.
I'm with you. Yeah, same way.
Right?
Weak coffee to me, like if I have too much watered down coffee, which pretty rare. Sometimes our coffee maker will screw it up, but the stronger the better for me. Like to the
And
point
when
where I'm like, like that's good coffee.
It's hard for me when I go to other people's houses and say, "Oh, would you like some coffee?" Which you don't say no, but a lot of people are not.
If someone
coffee
gives like a
drinkers.
shit coffee, yeah.
they give you something weak. It's like, oh,
That's a
it's
fist
like,
fight.
ugh. And then you got to add the milk. You got to do everything. But I do agree. I don't drink black coffee.
Pathetic.
Well, because it bothers my stomach.
Really?
But yeah, it's just not good for me. But you could tell a good coffee as a black coffee when you drink it because you're just getting the essence of the coffee, of the quality of it.
Right.
So there's something, I do agree with him in that comment. But for me, it enhances it even more with the milk. I don't do sugar, but some people have to have sugar to cut the...
Yeah, I don't know. I think I could do it with milk. I'm at the... Truthfully, I'll drink anything as long as it keeps me awake, right? So I don't care if you do anything to my coffee as long as it's good coffee.
Well, you like the hazelnut. You like the flavored coffee.
Sure, but it doesn't matter. Like I don't need hazelnut. That's what I mean. So
I've seen Kenny do coffee in the morning. He's sitting there dumping in the sugar.
Oh yeah. Oh man, when I was growing up, have you ever seen me? Remember when I was growing up? Man, you would think so. The one time, the only coffee that sucks to me now, and I apologize because please don't sponsor us. Starbucks coffee is so bad because.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
So when I was at Scranton has its own. It's like got a partnership with Starbucks or whatever. So the first floor had a Starbucks thing in it that I could take any jug I wanted, and for 50 cents they'd fill it up. It was so nice. And then they were like, "Hey, this kid's coming in with this kid's getting a 12-gallon jug. Lasts me a week." The caffeine.
He can't even pay
Can you fill this again? Yeah. Here's my cord. So for 50 cents, they'd fill it out, but it was always like burnt to the crisp. And I don't know if that's on Starbucks or just user error, but I'll say every Starbucks I go to, it's terrible. But
no, I agree. I only get their Pikes Peak.
Something about
and
it.
It always
we didn't have an option. That's good. We didn't have an option.
Yeah, it just always tastes. But likewise, Dunkin' Donuts. Sometimes I can get a good Dunkin' Donuts, and sometimes it's weak. I will agree. Every Starbucks, I gotta dump a lot of milk in it because it's always too burnt.
I was a kid where I would have an ungodly amount of sugar packets, and people would look at me like, "Hey, you done? Like, same some sugar." I would take all of the sugar packets and throw it in. Yeah. There was points where I'd have mounds of sugar at the bottom of the cup, and people would be like, "Ugh."
Yeah,
so
but that's the problem when it's burnt. And back to this person's original comment: if it's a good coffee, you don't need to add sugar and milk to it or a lot of it. It speaks for itself.
Someone wrote, "Pee is stored in the balls."
Oh, jeez.
That's just wrong. That's not even a hot take.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, this one's interesting. Milk before cereal. You pour a bowl of milk, have the cereal box at the ready, add a little bit. This is too deep. Add a little bit of cereal at a time, and then add more as you finish it. That way you have the crunchiness plus the milk refreshment the whole time. Only acceptable way. Yeah, that takes 30 minutes to eat a bowl of cereal.
Obviously, this person does not know Troy Odets.
Yeah, our cousin. We talked about it last time with the... I can kind of see that. Like, some people don't like soggy cereal. I actually like soggy cereal, like when it's all, yeah. So like with Raisin Bran, I was like, oh, this is good. Like, I'm fine with
I have my cereal in the mornings now. That's my go-to breakfast.
Yeah.
And I mix it. I do the Papa Joe special, 3 different kinds of cereal.
So Papa Joe used to do?
He used to do that, yeah. Really? He had them all in containers.
So Papa Joe is my great-grandfather.
Yeah, he would do a little mix, put the 1% milk in. Now I throw a little fruit on top. But you're right. The branner, I don't know, it's not a word, but I'm going to say it. The branner, the cereal, the more milk because it just sucks it right in. you watch the whole milk just get absorbed right into the cereal, and it becomes like just a mushy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know about his routine. He's got a lot of time on his hands to be working it like a cocktail. The guy saying the levels that he does that you're just reading off.
Yeah.
You start off with
Yeah, that's nasty. Steak is super overrated and should almost never be ordered in a restaurant.
Is that Greta Thunberg? Did she write that?
I'll say this. I said this to you the other day. I'm so sick of steaks. I've had too many steaks in my life.
Yeah.
So, and they all taste the same. I don't care if it's $1,000 steak or a $20 steak. It all tastes the same to me. I can tell the difference, but to me, it's just flavorless gum now.
Yeah. We might have to go vegan for a while because we've all been having a lot of steaks.
How dare you? We will never stoop to that level.
Well, yes, we're very lucky in this country. We have a lot of, we have access to. It's expensive right now, but it's also a problem because you guys you don't really like variated menus that much. Not that I'm the best cook, but nobody wants sauces. Nobody wants to try this, that, the other thing.
I'm fine with trying stuff, but like at a buffet, I'm trying everything. But I'm not going to order. If I go to a restaurant, I'm not going to order out of my comfort zone.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh,
it's not a buffet. buffet is bulk food in mass. I mean special foods where you take the steak and you make beef bourguignon, or you make like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You try different things and you make things out of the beef, the chicken. You guys refuse to eat pork. Yes, I'm dealing with 5-year-olds here. I don't eat pork.
I hate pork. I like ribs. Pork chops for me, not my thing.
But when you prepare things a certain way, you don't even taste the difference. Same thing with fish. If you prepare it a certain way, we just tend to have the basics. You don't like sauces. You're not a big sauce person.
I like it on the side. Like, I don't like my stuff drenched in sauce.
Right. So you're going to wind up with a steak. And then, because there's not much else, right?
Yeah.
What do you want?
No, yeah, that's fine.
But I'm saying you're not a connoisseur.
I'll eat steak, but boring. It's not my. Yeah, I get boring of that. Like chicken, I can probably eat all day in a wrap form, but. Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a picky eater, but there's just certain things now that I'm like, ugh.
Well, now you understand. You're 27. We got 30 years on you that would be the same stuff over and over again. You do get kind of bored with it after a while, and you want to try different things. Or some nights, which I know you look aghast at us, Dad and I are fine with soup and a sandwich because we just don't care. We've had enough.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Dr. Pepper is the best soda. I think so. I like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, I enjoy a
lot of flavors. I feel like it's a flavor blast every time.
Diet Dr. Pepper. I did notice, though, I recently had a Diet Dr. Pepper. I haven't had one in a while because I've been drinking ginger ale. I felt it was far more carbonated than what I remembered.
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between bottled and canned. And I think there's a huge difference. Like even in size too. So like the smaller. So my dad. Of anyone who needs a Pepsi sponsorship in this world, my dad. I'm not even kidding you. Outside we have probably 30 liters of Pepsi, like just sitting there. Probably more.
Yeah.
The 2-liter bottle tastes completely different from just like the 1-liter bottle. Yeah. It's something with the size and carbonation.
Well, we haven't been buying the big ones anymore because they were losing their fizz. We weren't drinking it fast enough because we don't. Dad doesn't drink a lot of soda. He drinks it at dinner, maybe with a meal, but predominantly we do water here. You guys were drinking a lot more soda. Now you're all, your brothers are more water drinkers than you.
Yeah, I'll have soda every now and then. I don't really have it anymore.
You were going on a tear for a while.
If it's on, no, it lasts.
Yeah, so every time I saw you had a Pepsi with lunch, you had a Pepsi with dinner. Yeah.
I can't tell you. Well, if we eat out, so if we have steaks or Chinese food, yeah, it's going with soda because I mean you got it. Once you dip your toe in, you're going in the pool.
No, you were eating it here. You were here.
Yeah.
I'm watching you.
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I don't really have too much soda. I don't really like soda that much. Rule number 1 of a podcast.
Sorry.
Holy. I can't hit that. There we go.
There's nothing important.
Do I have any more? Let's do like 1 or 2. Oh my God. Pickles as a standalone meal are completely valid. Ugh. Ugh.
Freak.
No, I'm trying to see. Here's.
They're just throwing things out there to be controversial.
Yeah, most of these are just kind of like, eh. Like a lot of these are not really hot takes. They're just people saying stuff that they know is going to get likes.
Pickles.
Like who says this? This year will be a grand awakening of a spiritual nature. What do we say?
Tell it to the kids at Asbury University. It's true. It's true. We have a big awakening going on. And it's funny. Okay, so let me say this. It's not political, but when you read your history books, American history, they would go back like around the 1800s, maybe late 1700s. It was this. You always have to read about some priest, or pastor. He always gets credit in the history books for the Great Awakening. I think it was the early 1800s, right? And I remember reading that. I was like, oh, yawn. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? And now, all of a sudden, we're seeing it in the news in modern time. I think it's kind of interesting that there's this awakening going on at the Asbury University. Georgetown's been involved in it. A handful of other universities, young people have gone over there. And it's a very interesting dynamic in our society because it's younger people. It's not specifically any one religion. It's just like an awakening to a general God and a spirituality, which I think that's very encouraging from young people.
All right, last one, and I like this one. Star Wars is the most overhyped film series of all time by magnitudes or multitudes. I kind of agree with this. I like Star Wars. I haven't seen all of them. I know that there's a lot of lore behind Star Wars, but I don't understand. Like, it doesn't. I know it was like revolutionary in the movie industry, but I don't find it that interesting. And I think the reason I don't find it that interesting is because there's like a huge time, like it starts with the last 3 movies and then goes back to the first later on. And now you have all these spin-offs, which kind of kills it.
Right.
But we won't even I know not to talk about the spin-off movies.
Well, and even the recent woke ones, they killed it. Forget those.
They don't even count those. They don't even throw them in.
Yeah.
I think the original Star Wars, like the main storyline, it's a good story, and I know that there's a lot of lore in comics that go on beyond that in books.
Yeah.
But from a movie perspective, I kind of get bored of watching them. Like, I'll be watching through one, and I'm like, I can't even keep up with this anymore.
When it first came out, that Star Wars, and I think I'd have to really struggle with this one. That is what started the sequel-type movies. You didn't have a lot of sequels when movies started, or prior to that time. Mm-hmm. It did so well, and it was such a unique film with the special effects. Right?
Yeah, it was revolutionary in the movie
Right. So when you look at movies throughout time when they first started and whatnot, you always had that one movie that took everything to the next level. You know, the first talkie, and then the next. So then you had Star Wars, and I can't think. The only other thing that was on at the time was probably like Star Trek was on TV when I was really young, and that was good, but it was kind of cheesy, no special effects, you know, or cheesy television special effects. Then Star Wars came along, and Lucasfilms, and was it Spielberg who did that one too? George Lucas, I think, was the main creative person behind it. Yeah, George Lucas is the... Right. Yep. When that came out, now, I was not into sci-fi or any of that stuff, and I remember going with my friends just to go see it. Movie theater was packed. You're right. It had a good story. And then you add to the special effects, and you had that it appealed to young people, right? It was a young kid who was the main character, Luke Skywalker. And I walked out of there saying that I couldn't wait for the next one, not knowing that there was even going to be... Not even knowing there was going to be a next
nosebleed.
One, right? Oh,
like,
really?
No. Yeah. Oh. Thought I had a nosebleed. I'm fine. It's fine.
Oh.
I sometimes have to remember I'm mortal. You know,
really.
It's like a... Go ahead.
So anyhow, it was that good. And then when the next one came out, I think it was even better. And then the third one was even better than that because that tied all the strings together. You know, Luke Skywalker, the father, Darth Vader's his father, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Luke, I am your father is a classic line.
Right. It was that kind of a what do you call it, a cliffhanger that took, I forget how many years was between each, but it was, you know, by itself, and then that was it. There wasn't anything else for a long time. Many years. Then they resurrected it and said, oh, now let's go back.
Yeah, and that was smart because it hits the older generation, with just like how they brought back Toy Story for us. Right. Same concept and it works, but then you have all these spin-offs and they took it too far.
Right.
That's besides the point.
They treated it like, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's overrated in the sense of the story and stuff. And again, revolutionary. I think it's overrated in the sense of the following that it has to say, oh, it's a good movie, and then the people that defend these new movies, like, oh, there's spin-offs. Now, not too many people defend those, but I know that there's people out there that defend those movies.
Well, I think what's always a good test of a movie is, can anybody pick it up along the line? Somebody who knows nothing about Star Wars, would they like it? And that's why I said I knew nothing about it. I wasn't into it, and I liked it. If I sat down and watched, I don't know, what is the Mandalorian or whatever, would I like it? You know, like, is it too is it too much?
Well, they took it too far because that the Mandalorian takes place before Yoda was even, like, Baby Yoda's in there. So it's way before those movies took place. Right, now we're talking hundreds of years back.
But that's okay. If that part of it doesn't matter. The point is, can it be a standalone movie where I'll go see it and like it, right?
Yeah. I think if you're a Star Wars super fan, you're going to like it no matter what because it's Star Wars.
I don't know. Some of those people are very picky. They'll go see it.
Yeah.
But if it's
they
not
might not like
snuff,
it,
but they'll knock it down and they won't drive the business into it.
Yeah, I don't know. I overrated is a strong word. I don't think that it is. Like, I don't want to see them make more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to continuate.
You want quality, not quantity.
Yes. Like, if they had one every 5... Yeah.
Right.
And when Disney bought it out, it became kind of a shit show. Yeah. Mandalorian's good, but everything else apparently is like...
Yeah, I saw a TV series for The Mandalorian, but that's the only thing I know about it. I do know they started churning out all these Star Wars where I was losing track of. I'm like, wait a minute, where are you now?
What do you mean Luke Skywalker had a kid?
Right.
And,
right. You know,
doesn't make sense.
And the ones that did do well were the ones that brought back the 3 stars.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that I think those, maybe that's because they were done a little bit better. I don't know. I wasn't following it. I just remember those got a lot of a commercial success, and maybe because they brought back the 3 original characters to the sequel.
So we only have one question this week from someone. Have you ever seen a UFO or know someone who's seen a UFO? And what do you think about human abduction stories? I'll let you take this one.
First thing that comes to mind is that Saturday Night Live skit.
Yeah.
That's a funny one.
Wasn't my worst Thursday night.
Worst Thursday nights. What do I think of it? UFO is an unidentified flying object.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough because the real definition of a UFO is anything that we as Americans cannot identify.
Right.
So China might know what it is. We don't because we don't have the technology.
Right.
Russia might have it. So UFO, I'm assuming you mean out of this world UFOs, right?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about that, I mean, I'm of the mindset of you'd have to be crazy to think that we have a universe this big and nothing else is out there.
Right. I agree.
Doesn't make sense.
I agree.
Human abduction stories. I don't know many human abduction stories. I've heard of people going missing and then they've come back and there's been some weird.
We might have to bring Bill Grutta in for this conversation.
We might have to,
he brings some insight into it that
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, but
I'd love to have Mr. Grutta on this podcast. The 3 of us. That'd be awesome.
Like,
Go full on conspiracy.
But he's got some.
I didn't realize how
stories.
many cow mutilations there are. So apparently these aliens, they come and they do weird things to cows that aren't humanly possible.
I don't know.
It's weird.
Never heard that.
Oh yeah.
Apparently
weird. It's very common.
Never heard that.
Yeah. Like I saw it was like a cow somehow could like spontaneous combustion on a cow, which is weird.
That's very weird. Why leave our cows alone? Cows are very nice, docile animals. I don't know why people aliens would go after our cows.
That's what we said. Why would you go after cows? Like human abduction is a weird one because I don't know too many human abduction stories. I know the stories of like, oh, we saw aliens, but we don't know what it is. The most famous one being Bob Lazar. But I don't know. I've never seen a UFO. I don't believe. None that I remember.
No, right.
Maybe my memory got erased like Men in Black. But
well, things happen. But as we're finding out now, when they were releasing some information that they had in NASA or whatever, I think recently some stuff had come out. Remember Tucker Carlson was on that topic for Fox News. I never watched it, but I think to Chris's point, I think it's naive to think that we are the only entities out there. I mean, we haven't found habitable places yet on some of these other planets, but that doesn't mean there aren't other.
Here's the way I see it, and this might be far fetched. You tell me what I think.
But I also like to say, why do we automatically go to the negative? I think that's arrogance. That they're going to want to come and take our world.
Yeah, here's what. So to that point, this is kind of the mindset I have, right? If I'm going to go down the deep scientific route here as someone who's not at all a scientist. So the way I see it is if there's an infinite universe and an infinite number of possibilities, there's probably some galaxy out there that they're literally having a full-out war against another galaxy.
Could be.
Right? If that's true, why would any alien life form come to here, see that we're fighting amongst each other, and go, oh, we need these people. Like they probably look at us and go, we don't need them. Just let's keep fighting this galactic fight somewhere else. Like we don't need them. They can't help us at all. They haven't even reached the moon really yet. Like they've gone to the moon, but they haven't reached their other planets. So,
well, I think we would be simpletons compared to them if they had the ability to.
So why would they ever bother with us? Like they probably have nuclear. There's an infinite possibility that they have something way stronger than a nuke. Like they probably have something that destroys galaxies.
Yeah, if they're able to come and bring some unidentified object into our atmosphere, they probably have more advanced technology.
So
than
they look
we
at
do.
us, see that we're fighting
primitive,
right? Exactly. So they go, why would we? These guys aren't even. There's no point in us being here.
Right.
We're ants compared
and
to
whatever
them.
assets or resources we have on this planet, I mean,
they probably don't even need, or they have more of it.
Right. Or they're just curious as to what we have, why we have it,
what we're using it for.
Right. Right.
So again, if they really cared about us, they would have taken over by now. Like they have the advanced technology to take whatever they wanted if they're coming here.
Yeah, or they're at a point where they don't need it yet.
Exactly.
And,
they'd just be surveying.
Right. Maybe checking out. They'd fly to different galaxies. I don't know. But we don't get information.
Yeah.
gives us information. I have heard of abductions. Usually it's in like the cheesy Inquirer type magazines, or it used to be in those type of magazines.
Yeah.
I don't really read those, but how many of them are abductions with aliens? How many are people on drugs that said that happened? How many other people? Because it's usually somebody, not to insult people in the Midwest, but it's usually somebody in the middle of nowhere.
With the worst cell phone taking a video.
Yeah.
The cell phone quality makes no sense when even the homeless have iPhones now. Like, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So, again, I think that they do exist, but I think that they are on such a higher level than us if they're able to come here that they just don't even bother.
Right. I say they could exist. I'm not going to discount it.
I think if there's an infinite amount of possibilities, right? And one of the possibilities is that we exist, that tells me that there's an unlimited number of chances that something else is out there.
Yeah, I mean, not to
it
limit,
can't be
but,
zero because we exist. So because we exist, it can't be zero.
Right, but I'm of the mindset too that you may think it's a primitive mindset, but we're all created by something, and we're supposedly created in that image. So you got aliens all over.
I believe something made. I mean, you can't until scientists can create something out of nothing. So literally, if I just go apple and an apple forms, then you could disprove a god. Yeah, but you can't disprove that someone made or something made this.
Right, and I just saw. I didn't read the article, but I saw some headline that said, "Duh, the obvious of aliens are not what you think. From what the data we have, they look more like humans than we do. What they're basing it on, I don't know.
It's the infinite possibility of one being human.
Right. But if you notice, whenever they depict it in sci-fi movies, they tend to be warped versions of humans, but they have the legs, they have the arms, Only in Star Wars do you see these freaky creatures that have morphed from a human form into something else, which that's a possibility too. Things that don't look human, what are they exposed to? What's in their atmosphere that could create multiple heads, blah, 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 blah.
Well,
we know that could happen here on Earth.
What's crazy about the infinite possibility, right? Assuming that the universe is infinite. Whoever created all of this is a genius because they've created an infinite chance that I will never meet another person that is me. So, for instance, if there's a universe out there, which there's an infinite possibility that there's a universe that's like this, and Earth, and there's
while
another
you're in your physical form. Right?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know dimensions beyond this one.
There's got to be there's an infinite possibility, right? Dimensions is different, right? I don't know how dimensions work. I'd have to talk to someone about that to understand.
No, but I'm saying if you believe that the physical body dies, but there's another entity that continues, which I do.
Right.
What experience will that entity have? We don't know what that is, other than for those of us who are religious, what we've been told what to expect. For others,
and based on accounts of like people coming back from the dead or whatever.
Right, and that's people have disputed that also scientifically, saying it was a dream, it was this, it was that. Right. Having said that, there could be another. We know there's another realm beyond this one. We just don't know what it means. And I'll say that's a general term for everybody. That even if you don't believe in religion, that if you think the body dies and that's it, done, blackness, you're over. Okay, some people, not necessarily religious people, believe that there's another dimension. Yeah. It can't just end with the physical.
I think
body.
The reason that they know that though, excluding religion.
Yeah.
You can't make something out of nothing. So, like when scientists go Big Bang or whatever, something still has to be the catalyst for Big Bang. You can't make, as far as we know, you can't make something out of nothing.
Right.
So something had to make something out of nothing.
Right.
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 I can't say if that's human and God, whatever.
Right.
But there's still an infinite. This being was able to create something infinitely, as far as we know. Again, maybe there is an end to the universe. We don't know. The argument is scientists have determined that it's constantly expanding. So it's infinitely expanding. Because of that also means that it's an infinity that keeps going, right?
Yes.
With an infinity that keeps going, more and more planets will form over time that either will be more advanced or less advanced than us. Given a certain amount of time.
That's true.
So,
but we also have some, and people can dispute it, argue it, however, but there's some really weird evidence, and I do agree, when you look at pyramids. How is that humanly possible, especially at that time frame, given the resources they had?
Not to spread the conspiracy, but you guys should, if you're interested, you should really look into the pyramids. You'll go, there's no way we made that.
Yeah, I mean,
chance.
If human beings did that back then with the labor, remember, it was physical Jewish slave labor they used to do this, human beings, That's an incredible feat that I don't even know we could do it today in our modern abilities, using what they used with our intelligence, using what they used, the resources at the time, and human bodies pulling this to get things that perfectly structured.
The argument is that, or what they say is, there's a huge gap in history that we have not found yet. So,
could be.
And the reason they say that is because there's evidence that somehow those pyramids had a form of electricity. We don't know how they did it, but like there were lights and stuff. They used some kind of chemicals to make batteries.
Right.
So
And
like, how do we not have that?
pyramidal structures are found around the world.
Yeah, people don't realize there's pyramids built in Antarctica.
Yep. You told me about that one. When you clear away some of the jungles down in South America, find those. You know, they may
and we're not talking
top.
about the Mayan ones. The Mayan ones are bullshit compared to.
But they're still of that shape, which is interesting. So either whoever built those were exposed to something done perfectly and they tried to mimic it, or it's another version of it being done.
But what's also amazing about the pyramids were not only built, they are perfectly aligned. Yeah. Perfectly aligned with north, east, south, and west.
Yes.
I mean, think of how perfectly. Yeah. That means that they built, however many stones there are, perfectly to the point where it's aligned with north, east, south, and west. Right. Perfectly. Right. It's insane.
With the tools that they had at that time and the resources.
We couldn't do that. Amazing. We couldn't do that with a crane right now with the best architects to get it that exact. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Again,
I think we probably could do it pretty exact today, but
maybe
we have more advanced technology that we know of at the time. Who knows what they were working with?
Well, unless we find some cranes, there's no way. There's zero chance.
Or the opposite is we were advancing so much intellectually back then. And something happened that caused us to slow down our intellectual to the pace that we have experienced through history. That's another aspect.
Which means that maybe someone didn't want us getting off the planet. That's
possibly, or maybe there was a pandemic of some sort that,
Yeah, that's another one.
That could have created brain damage. I don't know, but there's a lot of interesting things in history that makes you go, huh? But you can't just discount it, and I'm not one to say, oh, there's no such thing as UFOs. A lot of people do that because they fear it. And I often think, why are you fearing it?
I don't think they fear it. I think they fear the outcome of, the change of everything. Because think about it. If we had aliens, I think the Muslim religion would just disappear, right?
Well, but no, I think human beings fear the unknown. They fear death.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
They fear things they can't understand, and
that's true.
And naturally we've been ingrained to think if a UFO comes, it must be for something negative. They're going to kill the cows. Think about that story about the cows. They have something with the cows. What's with the cows? And they mutilate the cows. Okay, I don't know why. Maybe there's a reason. I don't know if there are entities out there. It sounds more like some sicko who's decided to go out and mutilate cows and blame it on UFOs.
Yeah, well, it's just like they didn't. So with the cow thing, though, and why it's weird is it's stuff that humanly you can't do to a cow. So it would be like some scientist that took out the gallbladder perfectly without moving any of the other organs.
Okay, yeah, weird
it's very weird. Yeah, it's like no, we don't have doctors that can do that without machines. This guy did it in the middle of a farm.
Yeah, that's weird. Jeez.
All right, that was a good question, though. That's a good. I like that. That's a good question, Blue Ninja. So we can end it there just because we've already done 2 hours.
Okay.
The only things I have to promote, let me think here, besides all the shorts and stuff, Atomic Hearts came out today, which is Saturday. This comes out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I put out Hi-Fi Rush on Wednesday, so that's fine. I gotta figure some stuff out. That's pretty much it. And then tomorrow for Sunday is going to be the Toy Story 2 speed run that we did a month or two ago.
Game?
Yeah, Toy Story 2. Oh. PS1, which was awful. I realized, thank God I didn't have a PlayStation 1 because the PlayStation 1 was god-awful.
Do you remember the Toy Story video game? Computer game? With the,
I'm sure I had one.
The bad guy with the battery.
Oh, yeah, Zurg.
Zurg. You had to get the battery levels.
Yeah, I remember that.
You had to jump up,
I was
down,
thinking
up,
of doing
up,
that one, but I have to do Hercules pretty soon.
And the airport with the luggage you had to get.
Yeah. This one was brutal. This one sucked. I had to... The PS1 was terrible. You know what? That's a hot take. The PS1 was an awful console. The GameCube was so much better. But yeah, so that one comes out on Sunday. This comes out Monday, Tuesday. That's pretty much it. So I'll see you guys on... Wait, am I... Yeah, because I'm not going to Tennessee. So I'm trying to figure out my schedule.
Okay.
But anyway, social media down below, promo codes down below, stream links down below, Discord down below for Hot-Kakes and podcast questions if you want to post any. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So I'll see you guys tonight, technically, at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard for stream. So good job, Mom.